Oulton Park all set for round 13 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. Let's go straight to the commentary box. Tim Harvey and David Addison are there, and take it away.
Well, a great day of racing at Oulton Park beckons, doesn't it? Because not only is this one of the great circuits, but, Steve, it's a real challenge around here.
It is, Steve. You're absolutely right. As always, Oulton Park provides great racing, and I'm sure there's only going to be one winner today, and that's Steve Ryder.
Well, it's an all-Hyundai front row of the grid. Dan Lloyd at the very back, he's going to be one to watch. But, of course, Chris Smiley, with all of that extra boost, he's going to be a man to watch, starting alongside Tom Ingram, who took pole position. The green flag is waved then. Cars make their way off the grid, and as they accelerate down towards Old Hall Corner, is this going to be an Ingram race? What do we think?
Well, the chances are stacked in Chris Smiley's favour in terms of boost, but I wouldn't bet against Tom Ingram or Ash Sutton or Dan Camish doing the business. I'm very keen to see how James Dorling copes after his best qualifying performance so far.
So, green flag lap underway. It's a much chillier Oulton Park than we expected it to be after really, really good weather during the week. But the good thing is that despite the rain this morning, the circuit has pretty much dried out. Might be a little bit damp under the trees over at Druids, but we will find out then as the cars work their way down towards Old Hall Corner. One driver there who is going to be starting very nearly at the back of the grid is Dan Lloyd. Let's check in with Dan before we go racing. Yeah, Dan, tough day at the office starts right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, gutted about yesterday. You know, we had good pace. Chris did a mega job being on the front row, and I felt like we could be there near him. So, yeah, gutted about that. But today's a new day, and we need to crack on.
Right, so where are the best opportunities to overtake, or is it just elbows out everywhere from where you start?
To be honest, everywhere. It's a little bit tricky at the minute because the circuit's still damp in quite a few areas, and obviously it's a narrow circuit as it is. Now with it being damp, it's either going to provide opportunities or problems. So we'll soon find out, but hoping to make up some good ground in this.
Fingers crossed it goes the right way for you. Good luck, Dan.
Cheers, David.
Dan Lloyd then, who starts 24th yesterday, the car failing the ride height check at the end of his qualifying session, so that's why he starts at the back of his group. But let's have a look at the grid in its entirety. Tom Ingram is going to start on pole position for round 13 with Chris Smiley's best qualifying of the season. He is alongside. First pole of the year for Ingram, don't forget. Dan Camish and Ash Sutton, the teammates for Napa Racing UK, line up on the second row. The third row is where you find James Dorling and Adam Morgan ahead of Tom Chilton and Josh Cook. Row 5, Charles Rainford and Senna Proctor ahead of Mikey Doble, who is the first of the drivers on the hard option tyre, then Aaron Taylor-Smith. And Jake Hill comes next. You've got Sam Osborne starting 14th, and he's on the hard tyre as well. Then Dan Rowbottom, hard tyre, Darryl DeLeon's BMW for company. The 9th row, Dexter Patterson and Aidan Moffat. The 10th row, Stephen Jelly, we understand has a concern over a misfire, but he lines up alongside Max Hall, ahead of newcomer Finn Leslie, and Nick Halstead is alongside him. Nick Hamilton is on row 12, alongside Dan Lloyd, from whom we've heard. And Gordon Shedden rounds out the grid. He's on the hard tyre as well, getting that out of the way. It was track limit offences that rather did for Gordon yesterday. He's going to be a man to watch. Remember that the boost allocation for this race is based on where you are in the championship. So it's 2 laps for Ingram, it's 4 for Camish, only 1 for Sutton, 6 for Adam Morgan, 7 laps for Josh Cook, 5 for Jake Hill and 3 for Dan Rowbottom, everybody else on the maximum allowance of 8. And that is going to put Chris Smiley in a really good place.
It does. He's got to use it in the best possible place. Of course, using it in qualifying to get the fastest lap is very different to using it in the race to try and overtake, because you can use it all in one place if you like, but of course in order to defend, the car in front's got to use up their allocation, and they have less.
To the grid they come then, the Oulton Park Island Bend circuit. Okay, the drivers say it's narrow. Well, Oulton Park hasn't shrunk over the years. Racing cars have got wider. Go back to the early 1980s. Contemporary Formula One cars were still being raced here in the British Formula One series, for example, and others. But over the years, it has always given plenty of close racing. Drivers love this circuit. There's not much margin for error, that is for sure. And so it's an all-Hyundai front row. The manufacturer entry of Tom Ingram, the independent entry from Restart Racing of Chris Smiley lining up alongside. Second row of the grid, Dan Camish, and then the championship leader and 3 times Toyota winner this year, Ash Sutton. The last few cars slot into place. Gordon Shedden is very nearly in Chester. So far back is he at the rear of the grid, but he will line up last. The green flag will be shown at the back, and then we are going to be good to go. We have a car with a problem with the door open. That is Finn Leslie, who is replacing Ronan Pearson for the weekend, and I think he may have stalled trying to get up the hill, and that means that Nick Hamilton can't get into place, and nor can Gordon Shedden. So that, I fear, is going to delay the start because he's out of position. Let's see. The start delay board is being shown. There you can just see the bottom of the board. So start delay board, and that means ordinarily they would do one further formation lap, one lap off the race duration, but we'll double check what clerk of the course Ian Watson elects to do. They're the marshals, and the TOCA technical team go to Finn Leslie's car to find out what the problem is, and it needs pushing off the grid, and of course it would be uphill, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they're going to need a few more marshals than that, I think. Oh, they're going to have to work really hard.
Finn Leslie set for his touring car debut, and I think just that start sequence not being done properly, revs it, car stalls, and now of course they need to try and get past Stephen Jelly. We have a further formation lap then, so the cars will go round once more because all the warmth they got into the tyres while they've been sitting there will have dissipated. So for safety, around you go again, and then we'll double check whether we're going to lose a lap off the duration or whether we stay at 15.
This will actually suit everybody. They'll be very happy to get an extra lap of warming their tyres up. This will be great for them. Not so much for debutant Finn Leslie. What a disastrous start. I think it may have been more than just him stalling, because otherwise he'd been able to restart the car. There's clearly a bigger technical problem than that.
If they can get the car fired up, he will have to start from the end of the pit lane as the field then circulates once more around the Oulton Park circuit. The marshals then getting the car out of harm's way. That's the first concern. Then get the car to the team. The local Speedworks Motorsport team operates under the Toyota Gazoo Racing UK banner. Meanwhile, Tom Ingram leads them around once again. More vigorous weaving to generate warmth into the tyres. And isn't it great to see so many fans trackside of Oulton Park?
Yeah, look at that. On the inside approaching iron and hairpin, the track is actually damp. And that's obviously a key defending and overtaking area. So if you defend, you're going to be on the damp. If you attack up the inside, you're going to be on the damp. It's going to be a quite treacherous corner, that.
Oh, good. So stand by, everybody, for the opening lap or laps of the race. It is, remember, Tom Ingram for that first pole position of the season who will lead them around. Local circuit not only for Speedworks as a team, but for Adam Morgan as a driver, for example. Base not far from Preston, a bit further up the road. Down towards Hislop's they come. Vigorous weaving in the background. This is the view looking down onto the famous Knickerbrook corner, up Clay Hill. Then for Team Vertu with the Hyundai, and with the restart racing car of Chris Smiley on the grid. Now, down the pit lane has gone Finn Leslie's car. The team trying to get that ready to go. It might have to start, as I say, from the pit. And we are losing a lap. We're going to be down to 14 laps, then not 15. Because of the delayed start. So a 14-lap race now, not the original 15, because we've had this extra formation.
Absolutely right, yeah. So as you said, judicious weaving. They've never seen quite as much weaving as this, especially those guys on the hard tyres. The four of them will be very pleased to have had that extra lap. Ingram just slowing it down to bring everybody a little bit closer. He doesn't want to be sat on that grid any longer than he has to.
Right, we're almost ready to go. Let's quickly try and get to the bottom of the Toyota travails. Louise, what news?
Well, as you can see, mechanics working furiously on the car. It's a drive shaft issue, basically. So that is not the job of a moment to try and sort out. But how unfortunate. Young guy about to make his touring car debut, and now he's got this to deal with. But fingers crossed they'll get it fixed and at least get him out for a few laps.
And do some mileage. Louise, thanks very much. Right, so yes, it wasn't just stalling. Tim was right. It was a bit more serious. Drive shaft. The team will go to work to try and get Finn Leslie into the race. Right, so after more weaving than you've seen at the local WI, the cars are now up onto the grid, and it is Tom Ingram then for pole position. It is Chris Smiley with him at the front. You've got Dan Camish and Ash Sutton on the second row of the grid. James Dorlin, the best placed of the Toyota drivers, now a Toyota trio on the grid, is lining up fifth with Alan Morgan for company, and 14 laps are ahead of us. Big crowd trackside, first race of the day, final event before our summer break. And as Gordon Shedden's Toyota stops at the rear of the grid now for round 13. All eyes go to the gantry. There's a 5-second board first of all, and then the lights will go red. Round 13 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship from Oulton Park is go! Good getaway by Camish, not a mega start by Chris Smiley, and it's going to be Tom Ingram who leads down towards Old Hall Corner for the first time. Here comes Camish up the inside of Smiley, and he goes through, so Smiley drops to third. It's Sutton fourth, and then as they turn through for the first time, you've got Adam Morgan ahead of Tom Chilton, but a really good getaway by Ingram, and he's already gapped Camish as now Sutton tries to go round the outside of Smiley, and Chris did not get off the line anything like as well as he needed to.
He didn't, and he's been mugged by the two Napa cars at the front. Camish with a good start, and typically Ash Sutton round the outside manoeuvre into Cascades, but Ingram has a little gap already.
So here they come out of the hairpin then with Josh Cook on the outside being roughed up a little bit. He's getting involved with James Dorlin, Stephen Jelly a bit further back. Ingram leads the way, and then you've got Camish and Sutton running second and third. In fourth place as they drop down towards his lot, it is Chris Smiley, then Morgan, then Chilton, then Cook, elbows out, gets ahead of Dorlin. Good, brave move under braking for his lot. Senna Proctor gets up the inside there. Look at Charles Rainford, and he goes through and roughs up Rainford. He goes out wide. Good move by Proctor. Rainford slots in just ahead of Jane Hill, who is on the move, but look at Ingram go on this first lap, pushing. He's only got 2 laps of boost, and he's trying to build that advantage early on while everybody else squabbles behind him.
Yeah, the other advantage of that extra warm-up lap is the drivers don't have to bring those soft tyres in. Remember, that's the softest compound we race at. Normally they have to be a little bit circumspect, at least on the first lap. None of that on this lap one. Ingram is scalding away.
Absolutely right, as the cars accelerate now out of Dearly. You're on board with Dan Lloyd, and what sort of a first lap has he had? He's up into 21st place. Max Hall on the inside line. Max stays ahead of him, tucked up behind the two. Gordon Shedden as they accelerate now down towards Cascades once again. This is Daryl De Leon right into the back of Sam Osborne. Bang, bang, forces him wide. Osborne drifts out wide and De Leon goes through, and also up the inside goes Aidan Moffat, and that was a little bit brutal.
That was, and it's a naughty place to do it because the driver has so little room on the edge of the track before running off wide. Aidan Moffat running a little bit wide there, getting on that damp part of the track. Oh, that's going to spin Osborne round into the barriers. That was Stephen Jelly in the One Motorsport car, just leaning on each other. Looks like they've got away with it relatively lightly, actually.
It is not Sam Osborne's lap, is it? So he's been roughed up at Cascades and duffed up coming out of the hairpin. Here's the replay then. Keep your eyes on the Napa Fords that run through side by side. Jelly gets up the inside.
Yeah, and there's just not room. I mean, they're so tight there because Osborne himself was side by side with Rowbottom.
Safety car deployed, our 7th safety car of the season, partly because of cars in awkward places, although Jelly has got going, but also the barrier, of course, was affected. You saw the Recticel cushioning fall over. So safety car deployed, and this is going to bunch them all up. This ain't great news for Tom Ingram.
It's not great news, but he'll be very pleased with the pace his car has shown in race conditions. Slightly different setup to qualifying, but he'll be very pleased so far, and he'll be pretty confident, I should think, of breaking that gap, opening the gap up again. But yeah, disappointment in terms of he was into his rhythm and he was away, but encouragement for everybody else.
Right, so race order with 2 laps in the book. Tom Ingram is ahead of Dan Camish, Ash Sutton is third, Chris Smiley fourth then, Adam Morgan fifth, then it's Tom Chilton in sixth with Cook, Dorlin, Proctor, Taylor Smith rounding out the top 10. You've got Jake Hill 11th ahead of Charles Rainford, 13th is Mikey Doble. 13th, why do we mention it? Well, he's the best place of those on the harder tyre ahead of Aidan Moffat and then Daryl De Leon. 16th out of the points at the moment, Dan Rowbottom, second of those on the hard tyre. We're on lap 3. Safety car on track at Oulton Park.
Yeah, Mikey Doble, if you remember at Snetterton, drove a really good race on the hard tyres. He actually did very well. He managed it very well, and he's doing the same thing again here in a very respectable 13th place on the first of the hard tyres. Here's a look at that start again. Ingram hooks it up really well. Not so well Chris Smiley. Camish, who's on the second row, is immediately alongside Smiley, can block him off into Old Hall. And now watch Sutton, because Sutton is getting a run here on Smiley and ends up going around the outside because Smiley defends. This was a brave move by Sutton all the way around the outside. And credit to Chris Smiley, who gives him room. He didn't run him off the road.
So that's the run down to Island Bend. This is Ash Sutton's view of the start.
So view from the start. Not quite such a rocket ship start we saw from Ash Sutton at Thruxton, but he has a great run. Smiley blocks going into Oulton, but hanging back and getting a very good run. Look at the exit off the corner. That's what opens up the gap for Sutton on the inside. Smiley thinks he's got this covered on the inside, but Sutton is already ahead onto the braking area and just stays there around the outside. Great start from Camish up into second as well. Look at the track on the right. There's that damp patch. They've all avoided that at the front. There was a little side-by-side further back, but that was a clean first few corners for the front runners.
So that was Ash Sutton's busy first lap. What about Daryl de Leon?
This is from further back. He's just about sort of on the crest of where the road starts to drop down. He's got Dan Rowbottom, who is on the hard tyre. De Leon's on the soft, so should make a better start. And in fact, he uses that extra grip round turn one. Look at the extra grip he's able to exploit over and above Dan Rowbottom on the soft tyres here. The inside is blocked. Does he go to the outside? No, he sits in behind Osborne, at least for this lap. We know on lap 2 there was a touch between those two at that point. Now they're queuing up for the island hairpin, all having to brake a bit early, having a tentative look at the inside where that water is laying down. And a little bit of rubbing, that's just concertinaing into the first corner, but it's his teammate coming alongside Aidan Moffat in the other BMW. He should be able to block him out going into the Hislop chicane. In fact, he does. Still got side-by-side actually through there when they went through the first part side-by-side. I thought de Leon had blocked him out.
Now, in other news, Finn Leslie has joined the race. Then he's 2 laps down, but a really good effort to get that drive shaft sorted out. So he's in the race. Stephen Jelly has pitted and rejoined. The safety car will be in this time. Lights are out, and so they will head up towards the timing line, and then we can go racing once more. Tom Ingram leads the pack. Safety car will bail. We'll go back racing this time. Race will be elongated because of the safety car laps, and Tom Ingram accelerates now past the go board and sprints up towards the timing line. We're back racing. And it's game on behind, look, as they dive down towards Oulton corner. Smiley to the inside, tries to get alongside Sutton. He also tries to cover off Morgan. There's no shuffle within the top 6, but Josh Cook may well have gone backwards because he was coming under attack from the likes of Dorlin and Proctor as they drop down now towards Cascades. Proctor's got himself ahead of Dorlin, and they're up the inside. Goes through, he's level with Cook, he's ahead of Cook.
Strong racing from Senna Proctor. It's like he's never been away, isn't it? He came back at Thruxton, one of the most difficult circuits you can imagine, qualified the car in the top 6 for the top 6, and he's showing great pace here again this weekend. It's great to have him back in the championship.
You're on board with Aaron Taylor Smith's Toyota, getting a little bit caught up with Charles Rainford over Hilltop. Down they come. Real battle pack going on towards the bottom end of the top 10. That is Cook versus Jake Hill. And Josh flings the car through as Max Hall gets sideways in the background. And I rather fear that he may have got caught up with others. Let's see, because they wriggle their way through. Yeah, he's got big damage, look, bodywork, broken suspension. And Max Hall is bound for the pits and retirement. So he did get sideways and he did get collected.
Yeah, he may have got sideways because he had that damage already, because the car was on that left side. It's a broken rear toe link, and that's what sent it into giving us a good impression of a rear-wheel drive car doing a power slide. Here we see some, you may see what happened here. This is obviously the blue and yellow car is Hall on the right-hand side, and I think there's a touch there.
Ah, yes.
That's the touch that broke the toe link.
And that was his teammate, Dexter Patterson. And remember what happened between the two of them at Brands Hatch. They fell out and they made contact here as well. Right. Fly on the wall in that garage must be interesting later on. Dexter Patterson has pitted, and Max Hall's heading that way as well. 16 laps, by the way, the race will be because of the safety car period. Josh Cook's really struggling here, isn't he? That one Motorsport Honda is going backwards, and there's been a bit of a rub, we understand, on that previous lap that's delayed him as well. But Ingram right now is getting away. He's 11 tenths up the road, and he's set the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he's back ahead again, over a second away. Fastest lap, as you say, so he's rebuilt that gap he had before the safety car.
Battle on lower down the field. Look, as James Dorlin comes down towards Hislop, he has got Cook behind him, then Rainford. There is Aaron Taylor Smith keeping Aidan Moffat behind him. Then you've got Mikey Doble, and Mikey Doble is still the best of those on the hard tyre, trying to get those out of the way, and then he can build his day accordingly. Let's have a look at Josh Cook. He gets involved there, look, with the Toyota. They survive it, but that was a little bit touch and go. Was that the James Dorlin car? I think it was.
Yeah, that was a nasty moment there. That one of them or both of them had to back out of that, or they'd have been in the pit wall. But the trouble in the pit lane, obviously Max Hall coming in with that broken rear suspension. I think they'll take their time to fix that. I don't think he'll be back out.
No, he missed, didn't he? 2 races at Thruxton because of damage, and it's not been a great start to the day here. So Max Hall's very tough season continues as Ingram leads.
And Camish sets the fastest lap on that last race. So has he stymied the gap? Has he managed to hold it at just under a second for that fastest lap?
This is Aaron Taylor-Smith's view, and right now you're in 12th place, going after Charles Rainford and the Toyota, looking quick coming out of Cascades. Aaron Taylor-Smith then possibly with a little bit of boost, gets up towards the back of the BMW, but Rainford comes off the inside line, uses lots of curb, but that sends him out wide. And Aaron Taylor-Smith tries to get up the inside, but the BMW's got the drive off the corner.
Well, BMW's got the rear end grip. He went in a little bit quick there and on the defensive line, which meant he ran a little bit wide mid-corner, and the Toyota was able to get a little bit underneath him, but the rear-wheel drive BMWs came off the corner so well he wasn't able to take advantage of it.
We're getting a battle developing a long way back now for the best of those on the hard tyre, because Mikey Doble and Dan Rowbottom are now pretty much together in the queue. So keep an eye in the background for the Vauxhall Astra. It may even be that Mikey Doble has lost the place coming out of Knickerbrook Corner on this lap. Try and double check when the cars come back into view, dropping down towards Lodge Corner, and there Napa Racing Ford is ahead, and up the inside line goes Dan Lloyd as well. So Rowbottom leads the class, if you like, for those on the hard tyre, and Dan Lloyd splits them. So now Lloyd knocking on the door of points from very nearly last on the grid. So you've now got Rowbottom in 15th and Lloyd on the soft tyre behind him, 16th, and looking to improve on that. Daryl De Leon, meanwhile, has been busy. This was him getting past Doble. Knock, into the back, down towards Island Bend. That sends the Vauxhall wide.
Yeah, through he goes. But on that last lap, Ingram absolutely smashed the lap record. It's a new lap record of 24.0, and that's 1.3 seconds quicker than the previous lap record. More importantly, it was 4.5 tenths quicker than Dan Camish behind. So, wow, Ingram lit the blue touch paper on that lap.
He has used one of his 2 laps of boost, but it was worth doing, presumably, to build that gap. He keeps one in reserve, the other lap in reserve, to the end of the race. That's Lloyd ahead of Rowbottom now, so that is for 15th place. That's a point, so that's significant. OK, soft shot car ahead of hard, no real surprise, but Dan Lloyd coming up from the back of the grid. Good work, and here from every angle is the move.
Yeah, you've got all 4 options there, haven't you? On board, looking at the face of Dan Lloyd, look at the concentration. He glances in the mirrors, looks ahead, looking at a great late braking manoeuvre there, really good, and he managed to make the corner cleanly. But yeah, it shows the power of that boost when it's applied by Tom Ingram, because that really stretched the gap out, didn't it? Now, on this lap, he hasn't used it, and he's 8 tenths of a second slower.
Have a look at this for second place, because now, look, Camish is coming under attack from Ash Sutton. And if they start squabbling, that's going to bring Chris Smiley back into the mix as well. Chris Smiley, don't forget, is still leading the independent competition against the cars ahead of him, being in the manufacturers part of the championship. Through the hairpin, so second, third, fourth, getting themselves together. Okay, that battle between the Napa Fords that's building up helps Smiley because he's going to catch. But who else does it help? It helps Tom Ingram, who's going to build the lead yet further, and he's already 2.7 seconds up the road.
Yeah, he's gone, but of course Smiley does have more boost available to him.
Dorlin off. Josh Cook trying to find a way past him and gets up the inside at Knickerbrook. James Dorlin sticks out his elbows, and the Toyota just about fends off the Honda. This is for 9th place. James Dorlin, in his rookie season of touring car racing, doesn't drive like one. That was a very robust defence when he managed to get himself back on the tarmac.
Yeah, get back on and defend. Cooking really, I think, backed out of him, saved contact. Here we see the replay of the rejoin straight in front. Cook was unsure which way to go, had to back out a little bit, and although Dorlin left a bit of room on the inside, Cookie's momentum was gone.
James Dorlin across the grass, some of that grass in the front of the car, is that going to affect him much?
I had a look, and the first thing I looked at, and it didn't look too much grass in fairness, so I think he's okay.
Fingers crossed for the Toyota squad on home ground. Meanwhile, here you've got Adam Morgan 5th and Tom Chilton 6th, and Senna Proctor 7th. Different livery, same team, all out of the Team Virtue stable. And here comes Chilton in the rather more turquoise car, up on the back of Morgan. So this is 3/4 of Team Bertie all in the line. The other member cleared off into the distance. The lead gap is now 2 seconds, because last time it was a really slow lap by Ingram. It was a 25.4 against a 24.7 for Camish.
Yeah, but I think he's managing that gap. It's 2 seconds. He's just managing it.
Chilton around the outside, up the inside at part 2 of Hislop's. Nicely done.
Very nicely done. Cleanly between the teammates, as you expect. What will Senna Proctor do? He'll be fairly robust. We know how he likes to jump, but we've got a lot of Hyundais, haven't we, up the front of this field.
Senna Proctor on a charge, of course, returning to the championship. His father, Mark, raced in the BTCC. And if you were here in 1984, you'd have seen Senna's grandfather, Tony, rallycrossing his Cosworth engine Ford Capri around here as well. So, third generation Proctor racer at Oulton Park, and he's right there on the tail of Adam Morgan, who comes now out of Lodge, up Deer Leak. Tom Chilton edging away. Remember, Chilton's been a race winner this year. Adam Morgan had a spin in qualifying yesterday. On board with Darrell de Leon, and there's a real scrum going on ahead of him as he comes up towards the line, because as they break the beam there, Aidan Moffat, Aaron Taylor-Smith together, and it's Moffat just ahead of ATS going into Old Hall, but Aidan Moffat gets a bit crossed up. He hangs on to it, but that was quite a wild ride.
Yeah, he took that inside curve and just launched the car a little bit. Up the front, there has been a change at the front in that Smiley, has dropped back from the Camish-Sutton battle. He's suddenly 1.3 seconds behind.
Absolutely right. So up front it's still Ingram as contact turns Smith around, and that in turn puts him into the side of the BMW, and Aidan Moffat is the one that came off worse. 3 into 1 did not go.
Yeah, well, that was never going to work, but it ended up with the BMW taking out the other BMW who was the innocent victim.
And it helps Dan Lloyd, doesn't it? Because that's another place game for Dan Lloyd. So he now will be up the order. Go on.
Here we see it coming into shot, I think, at the bottom of the shot, and there it is. The BMW tags the Toyota. Is this the onboard? This is onboard De Leon. Look, he just tags Taylor-Smith. He can't brake, and Taylor-Smith then fires into the other BMW, and through goes De Leon. But that was definitely caused by De Leon, and I think he'll get a penalty for that.
And that's not his only little bit of contact in the race, is it? We've talked about a few others. So here, side by side, Cook versus Dorlin. Cookie at the inside, brakes ludicrously late. You see the car quivering as he brakes for the corner, throws it into Old Hall. Job done, nicely done as well. So that's Josh Cook 9th then. He'd love to be higher up the order, but he is racing as hard as ever. And you forget sometimes, because he's not fighting for race wins this season yet, but Josh Cook is very much a class act.
Absolutely, he knows how to race, and he's racing very hard and very strong. That car's been attacked from the lights going out right until now, so I'd be amazed if his geometry is all straight and in the right place, but he's making it work for him, isn't he?
There must be a big magnet in there somewhere that's attracting all the metalworking cars around him. Now they come in towards his lot. Cook late on the brakes, deep in he goes. They're both being caught, look now, by Charles Rainford's BMW there. Don't forget, he's another rookie like James Dorlin ahead, and Dorlin's car stepped out over the curb and got a bit ragged, but he survives it, although Cook now gets away by a couple of lanes up the hill. Yeah,
Cookie's car really moving around. You saw coming that chicane, he was on maximum load, a lot of understeer going in because he carried so much speed, but he managed to make it round and get a good exit up the hill, crucially.
Over the line in the meanwhile goes Tom Ingram ahead of Dan Camish, ahead of Ash Sutton, and it's game on for fourth. Look, Smiley versus Chilton. So it's a Hyundai fight, the independent one ahead of the works cars, and Smiley hops over the curb, wanting points in the independents, but he'd love to end the day with some good podium results outright. But he's under attack here.
Yeah, Chilton is the quickest of this group, isn't he? Because he's already gone past Morgan. And remember, Proctor was on the back of that group. He's dropped off a little bit. And so there's some variance in the performance. Smiley's dropping back, Proctor's dropped back a bit. Yeah. But Chilton is definitely the quickest of these Hyundais.
And Dan Lloyd, 13th, having started 24th. On a track at which it's tough to overtake. Here he is, and he's looking to try to gain another place. Look, coming out of Island Bend, back onto the power. So Dan Lloyd looking to get past Darrell de Leon, who has been oh so physical in this race, but Lloyd's got track position. It was this part of the racetrack he had a sizable accident, don't forget, a good few years ago. But he's ahead and nicely done as he dives into his lots. Dan Lloyd, 24th, now up to 12th.
Yeah, and in the hard tyre race, Dan Rowbottom is holding 15th place, Doble 17th, and Sam Osborne 20th.
Rowbottom, though, has had a driving standards flag for track limit warnings, so if he transgresses again, a penalty will come. Proctor's also had a driving standards flag now, so some of them need to be careful. The laps are ticking on down. Tom Ingram has just gone across the line. He leads the way. Gap back. Second is Dan Camp. Third is Ash Sutton. Thinking about points. Fourth is Chris Smiley, who now looks like he's shaken off the Chiltern charge.
Yeah, it does look like it temporarily, maybe, but certainly. And this is, I think, how they're using their boost. Where Camish has a wobble going round Cascades that allows Sutton to close. Yeah, I think the gaps opening and closing are just people are using the boost. Yeah. We can't see on our graphic when they're using the boost, but I think it's fairly clear on the evidence of the gaps when they're using it.
Don't forget, Sutton only has one lap of boost available to him, so he's saving that for late race. But it does put into context just how well he is going, how good that car is, because he's third on pure pace and racecraft. He hasn't had to use the extra boost. Same true of Ingram, 2 laps only available to him. Dan Camish, remember, has got 4 laps, and Chris Smiley had the maximum 8, but just can't quite get himself back onto terms with those Napa Racing UK Fords as they head up the hill once more. This is lap number 14. It's a 16-lap race now.
Yeah, behind them, the gap, the Smiley, Chilton, Morgan, Hyundai battle, they're all using their boost on this lap. But in fact, of them, Morgan has the most. He's 3 of his 6 laps left. Smiley's already used 6 of his 8.
Race leaders go through, as there is Jake Hill getting up the inside of Senna Proctor for 7th place. So that's BMW moving ahead of Hyundai. The reigning champion goes by and slots himself into 7th spot. Over the timing line he goes. You see just over the pit wall that black and white diagonal driving standards flag being shown to a number of them. But Jake Hill going nicely now. Yeah,
Jake Hill not where he would want to be. He's had a almost lonely race, hasn't he, in 7th place. He's now getting amongst those Hyundais, but there's so many of them. Ingram, Smiley, Chilton, Morgan, Proctor, all in Hyundais in the top 8.
So Tom Ingram, fastest lap of the race, point. Pole position yesterday, point. The only driver to lead over the line, a point. And then set potentially for a race win and another bag full of points for that. Perfect start to the day.
And the gap was 9 points, remember, coming into this race. And Sutton is being denied 2nd place points by the very fast Dan Camish. So that will, as you say, the points gap will be very close.
This would be win number 35 of Tingham's career if works as he wants it to. We're only a couple of laps away as now Chilton gets himself back onto the tail of Chris Smiley's Hyundai. The man from Carrickfergus just ahead of Chilton then as they head once again down into Lodge Corner. Chilton thinks about a move.
And look how they've caught Sutton.
Yeah.
They have really caught Sutton. So Sutton's pace has dropped off, whether that's just using the tyres up a bit too much. But look, he's dropped off. England's got this race under control. Camish a comfortable 2nd. Sutton's dropped away nearly into the clutches of the Hyundais. But remember, Sutton only had 1 lap to use his boost, so the others all had more. So there's still a battle on here, potentially for 3rd place, certainly for 4th.
Look back from Sutton's 3rd place forward, Smiley behind, coming out of Cascades, and now along Lakeside Straight. This is the last lap, so if Smiley wants an outright podium, he's got about half a lap in which to challenge. They all concertina because as Smiley closes, he brings Chilton with him, but Smiley now gets on the boost coming out of the corner. He's up the inside, Sutton gives him room, but Sutton got a problem because it's either the boost or, just the boost, I think, because he gave Smiley lots of room and then slots back in behind. I think Ash Sutton, more than anything, there realised which battle he needed to fight.
Yeah, and it clearly hasn't. Normally he leaves, doesn't he, his boost lap for the last lap, but it would appear he hasn't got any.
So, Smiley gets ahead, Sutton then slots in behind him and defends from Tom Chilton, but Chris Smiley then is up into 3rd place and therefore set not only to win the independents for Peter Jones's Restart Racing team, but also to have an outright podium. So down they come towards Lodge Corner. This would be Chris Smiley's best finish of the season, but it's going to be a win for Tom Ingram there, who crosses the line. Tom Ingram wins at Oulton Park, a 35th win of his career. 2nd will be Dan Camish. Chris Smiley takes 3rd, then it's Sutton across the line ahead of Chilton and Morgan and Hill to round out the top 7. Senna Proctor is 8th, 9th is Josh Cook, 10th is James Dorlin. what about Dan Lloyd? Sorry, quickly to say, 12th from 24th.
Yeah, Morgan and Hill were side by side as they crossed the line. Hill trying to grab that place on the line. There were only 14 thousandths between them.
Not a bad start to the day, eh?
Yeah, great first race. And a fine drive by Ingram. He had the pace right from the get-go, didn't he?
Really did. And Tom Ingram, with the car that he said yesterday was just so hooked up. A few modifications have needed to be made overnight, but even that still came out absolutely on point, didn't it? So Tom Ingram, circuit he liked, a circuit he goes well at, and a second win of the season. Now, of course, he's got to run the hard tyre in that second race.
Yeah, the first three, that will be Ingram, Camish, Smiley. I wonder if Sutton just dropped out of that third place so that he doesn't have to run the hard tyre. He may have a different strategy, because obviously, I tell you what, I think he's thinking, I won't run the hard tyre in race 2 if I drop out the top 3, and it might rain for race 3.
Makes sense.
So I think that would explain why he lost that place so easily. That was a deliberate move by Sutton.
Makes sense, doesn't it? So normally he's a little more feisty about things like that. Aaron Taylor-Smith versus Darrell de Leon. Not much love lost possibly from earlier on in the race. They accelerated up towards the line together, and Aaron Taylor-Smith was just ahead, and that was another 14 thousandths of a second margin. Tom Ingram then, taking the checkered flag, and to celebrate, he comes past the team and does a stoppie. Stands on the brake, bit of tar smoke. Hopefully, Clerk of the Course, Ian Watson, won't take a dim view of that. There in the background, what Tim was saying about Morgan and Hill side by side, and that's what 14 thousandths looks like.
Yeah, I think there was a conversation between Sutton and his engineer, Tony Carosa, and they probably planned this one. The rain is forecast for later. Yeah. That could have been a very clever tactical move.
Confirmation from the team. Tactical. So, yes, it was tactical, and look at that, how close do you want it? 14 thousandths of a second, and a wide-eyed Adam Morgan just keeping Jake Hill at bay on the run to the line, but a really gutsy fight by Jake right the way to the end. Right, we'll have a deep breath in a moment after all that drama. First though, let's check out the result. Round 13 won by Tom Ingram ahead of Dan Camish and then Chris Smiley. Ash Sutton tactically drops out of the top 3 to avoid the hard tyre, and he finishes 4th. Tom Chilton 5th and Adam Morgan 6th. Then it's Jake Hill from Senna Proctor, from Josh Cook and James Dorlin rounding out that top 10. Chris Smiley, the winning independent from Josh Cook, and 3rd was Dan Lloyd from the back of the grid. Lloyd 12th behind Charles Rainford, Aaron Taylor-Smith 13th, Darrell de Leon 14th, and the last point going to Dan Rowbottom. And remember, he was on the hard tyre. Aidan Moffat next. Gordon Shedden up to 17th from 25th. He was on the hard tyre. So was Mikey Doble, who dropped back to 18th ahead of Nick Hamilton. And Sam Osborne, who was not only on the hard tyre, but had that drama with Stephen Jelly coming out of Island Bend. After Sam Osborne, there was Stephen Jelly after a pit stop, and then Nick Halstead, and getting into the race late, Finn Leslie. We lost Dexter Patterson and Max Hall from the Unlimited Motorsport team. So for the championship, what gives? Tom Ingram is 1 point ahead of Ash Sutton now. Dan Camish 3rd. Dan Rowbottom is 4th ahead of Jake Hill and Adam Morgan. 7th is Tom Chilton. It's Chris Smiley 8th ahead of Josh Cook. And the top 10 rounded out by Charles Rainford. So the next heart-in-mouth moment for all concerned is to get through the technical checks. Looks all good though for Tom Ingram, who will make his way now down towards that Park Fairmay area. The roller that you see there is to go underneath the car, and that makes sure that the ride height is correct. Tom Ingram released, arrives then with the team. Nicky Butler from Goodyear goes to get the tyre data that he needs, and Tom goes through the process of unplugging everything, and then eventually he'll clamber out of the car and be a very happy race winner. Second victory of the season, and now the championship leader by a point. And the cheers start round about now. Tom Ingram, race 1 winner. Out he gets, and after a thump on the roof of the Team Virtue Hyundai, makes his way then to celebrate with, first of all, Chris Hansford, long-time backer, Leslie, Chris's wife. And Tom Ingram then will make his way to celebrate with all of the team, including Justina Williams, the team owner, and Sandra Humphreys and the rest. We'll hear from Tom though, because once he's finished all of the celebrations, we should be able to come back from a quick break.
Round 14 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship, all set to go here at Oulton Park. We're back with commentators Tim Harvey and David Addison.
And as it was earlier on in the day, it is Tom Ingram who starts on pole position. But this time, he only has one lap of the allocated turbo boost, and he's on the harder tyre. This is going to make life tough for him.
Yeah, the hard thing in race 2 is for the first 3 to shuffle their way back through the grid with the faster soft tyre cars behind them without incurring any damage or getting nerfed off, because they're basically mobile chicanes. So the onus on the soft tyre guys is to get past them safely, but then also the hard tyre guys at the front don't want to give up too many positions.
Well, the green flag lap gets underway. It's got to feel at Oulton Park as though a storm might be heading this way, because as you can see, the wind has picked up. The wind would blow a dog off a chain at the moment, and we're a bit fearful of the future of our commentary box near the start and finish line. But for the moment it is dry, but I'm not convinced it's going to be dry all afternoon.
Well, that will be the thinking, certainly, for the Ash Sutton supporters who did that tactical move on the end of race 1 to drop down to 4th. He wants it to rain for race 3, so he doesn't have to use the hard tyre.
Indeed so. Well, it has been a busy day so far with a really lively first race. One driver who did a very good job in that first race was Dan Lloyd, who we spoke to earlier on in the day. Now, I know I don't normally do the same driver 2 races running, but let's have another word with Dan, because race 1, Dan, that was quite a charge, wasn't it? Up to 12th place, really good going.
Yeah, definitely happy with that one. Obviously, tight circuit round here. All the cars were on soft tyres, so 100% take that for the first race of the day.
Now, what about race 2? Because I was hearing as you came to the grid, you might have had a bit of a drama with the gear stick.
Yeah, so the gear lever that allows me to go into neutral has snapped, which in theory I should be fine. I just can't go into neutral and rest my left leg for a bit, but I'm sure I'll be fine.
Right, let's see what a charge you can offer up this time. Good luck, Dan.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So Dan Lloyd with that possible gearbox drama, but once he's into the race it should be okay. We know that he's going to start 12th, but let's look at the rest of the grid. Tom Ingram then is on pole position, hard tyre by being the winner and in the top 3 last time. Dan Camish second, he's on the hard tyre. Third on the grid, Chris Smiley, hard tyre. So the best of the softies, so to speak, is Ash Sutton, and he's 4th on the grid with 4 laps of boost ahead of Tom Chilton and Adam Morgan. Then Jake Hill and Senna Proctor starting 8th. 9th is Josh Cook ahead of James Dorlin, then Charles Rainford and Dan Lloyd. Aaron Taylor-Smith starts 13th ahead of Dan Rowbottom. Aidan Moffat comes next ahead of Gordon Shedden. Then you've got Mikey Doble and Daryl De Leon. 19th is Nick Hamilton, lining up 20th Sam Osborne after a tough first race. Stephen Jelly next ahead of Nick Halstead. Then you've got Finn Leslie after a drive shaft drama in race 1, Dexter Patterson, and hopefully with the car rebuilt, Max Hall to round out the grid. I touched on Daryl De Leon 18th, Tim, but there was a bit of a saga attached to him after race 1 as well.
Well, yes, we saw he was sort of in the thick of things, wasn't there? An incident with Sam Osborne and then a further incident with Aaron Taylor-Smith, which resulted in Aaron Taylor-Smith and his own teammate Aidan Moffat being pushed out wide. So he received a 10-second penalty and also a reprimand on his licence.
So Daryl De Leon, after a physical first race, will make his way then now round to the grid. You can see number 2 BMW in the background there, just weaving around. Max Hall, Dexter Patterson, team mates, in inverted commas, at Unlimited, are both on the grid, so damage sustained, but the cars are good to go. So once again, it is going to be 15 laps. The cars up to the grid. We, of course, had that delayed start for the first one and a lap off the distance. Then the safety car that stretched it out the other side. But 15 laps is the intended duration as the final few cars come down through Lodge Corner into Deer Leap and then on the 1-by-1 staggered grid up to the start formation. And a staggered grid just for the extra safety of having cars not totally side by side but just spaced out a little bit more should anybody have a problem off the grid. At the very back, the blue and yellow Cupra of Max Hall, the doctor's car, the safety car behind. Doctor's car will chase on the first lap. Safety car will follow if required to pick up the cars should an incident happen on the first lap. Otherwise, it'll go for the pit lane. But we are ready to go racing. 5-second board shown for round 14 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. The red lights will go out now Had a very good start. This time he's made by Chris Smiley, and he gets almost up alongside Camish. But the best start of all, I reckon, is from Sutton. Look, who's already managed to clear Smiley. He's up to third. He's on the inside of Camish for second, diving into Old Hall corner. It's another rocket ship start from Ash Sutton. Is he going to be second, though, as he gets to Cascades? He's on the outside line, and job done even before the corner. This is Sutton's race to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I said you could bet your house on it. The only hard part for Sutton's getting through the traffic, but the extra grip of the soft tyres off the line allowed him to jump Smiley. Camish, his teammate on the hard tyres, was never going to fight him round Cascades. He's now got one person to deal with. That's Tom Ingram.
And Tom knows that it's better to score points than not score anything by defending and getting involved in the skirmish. But behind, there are other quick people trying to wriggle their way past Smiley and, of course, Camish, as well as Ingram, on those harder tyres. Down towards his lots, 1 or 2 go really, really, really deep, and off the road there. Goes down row bottom across the grass, skips back onto the circuit. Josh Cook round the outside of Jake Hill. BMW ahead as they make the climb up the run underneath the bridge and then on towards Druids with a charging Dan Lloyd in the mix as well. Smiley then is going to struggle on his hards, and all those cars on softs around him look to gain ground.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Ingram would like to make it as difficult as possible for Sutton, even to the extent of holding him up a little. Look how he's blocking. He would love one of the other cars on soft tyres to get alongside and rough him up, but Sutton's got to run to the inside, but he won't have enough speed.
The car that's the real danger is Adam Morgan. Look in the background. Morgan, soft, third, teammate to Ingram. So if Tom can hang on in there and get Morgan onto the tail of Sutton, that might just make life easier. It might also enable Adam Morgan to jump Sutton and go for a race win at his home circuit. Ingram defending, but he's under huge pressure down at Cascades as Stephen Jelly comes into the pit lane in front of us. Down towards Island Bend, nose to tail. You're on board with Sutton. He's on the quicker soft tyre. It is Ingram on the hard tyre in the race. Leading Sutton goes to the inside, leaves it late, dives up the inside, and he should come out ahead. Sutton leads. Ingram gets run out wide, tries to fight back as best he can, though, coming over hilltop.
Look at the speed of that Hyundai. I know we've been talking about it. Morgan's right up the inside. Morgan also on the soft tyres. Ingram's going to concede both places. There's no point fighting them.
And behind Ingram is Camish, so now Morgan is the man on a mission. And don't forget that he finished in the earlier race behind Sutton, so he'll have 2 more laps of boost than Sutton does. Already the top 2 breaking away, and that is Nick Halstead's car, you're quite right, that has come to grief. And it's seemingly a long way off the racetrack, but we'll see whether this race needs interrupting to get it out of harm's way. Sutton leads Morgan. Bit of a gap back before you've got Ingram. Then it's Camish, and of course Camish on the harder tyre is about to get picked off by Chilton, and then Jake Hill, and then Josh Cook. And Dan Camish, I fear, is going to get shuffled back in the pack.
Well, Dan certainly did enjoy the hard time when he had to race on it. Snetterton fell back through the pack. The trick is to try not to lose too much time as the faster cars coming past on their soft tyres. But that was a great overtake by Sutton, just literally using the extra grip of the soft tyre to brake later and dive underneath Ingram last minute into the hairpin.
And Chris Smiley, 11th, the other driver from the top 3 of race 1 on the hard tyre and coming under attack. I think Nick Halstead's got going again. He has, so the road is clear as the leaders come down towards Island Bend. Look, Sutton versus Morgan. Bit of a gap back as there is a challenge made on the inside. James Dorling going ahead of Mikey Doble. Toyota ahead of Vauxhall. Darrell de Leon's BMW is up the inside in the background as well. Look, trying to gain ground. And he's done so as he comes out of the corner.
On board with Darrell de Leon on the inside. Let's see if the other BMW appears on the left. I don't think it will, and no indeed, de Leon can take the left-hand apex. He's clear.
And this was what happened earlier on in the lap when he tried to find a way past James Dorling at Cascades. Knock knock.
Well, that was where he had an incident, wasn't it, with Sam Osborne in race 1 and got a penalty for. Yeah. So, although he lost the position there, that was he needs to watch himself. Oh.
And that is how Nick Halstead came to grief, being roughed up coming into his lot, so getting turned around. And that is bad news because that is Dan Lloyd off the road and the safety car has been deployed. Dan Lloyd is off the racetrack, so the safety car makes an appearance and everybody will slow right down. So Ash Sutton leading Adam Morgan. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, to the man third, Tom Chilton.
Yeah, on soft tyres, obviously, but in the Hyundai. I'm not sure where that's gone off, actually. I can't recognise that bit of the track. Dan, we can see on board he's OK.
That's heading up to Druids, I think, isn't it? I think it's after Clay Hill, and near the water tower. Near the water tower up towards Druids.
It is, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you can see Druids there. That's from the camera opposite Druids. That's a very fast part of the car. Side-by-side racing and touching another car is the only way you spear off there.
Let's have a look at a replay and try and piece it together. Good news is Dan's okay.
Yeah, there was something. That was a big hit. Good job. The tyres and the foam did a really good job there of protecting that impact area, didn't they? They did a really good job. On board, it's horrible to see.
That'll have rattled Dan out.
Well, Oulton Park hasn't been good to poor old Dan Lloyd, where he had that huge crash previously coming over out of the hairpin. But I couldn't see if there was another car close by then. But we'll see if we get another angle for the replay.
Yeah, it looked like there was some tyre smoke, but I wasn't sure if that was him braking to avoid a smoke car.
That was just as he was going sideways.
Was it?
Yeah, that was as he was going sideways and smoke was pouring off side. But we'll see if there's another replay. I believe that our cameras do have another shot, so we'll have to see.
And this is going to take a while to sort out all the barriers, isn't it? You can see the damage done there to the recticel at least.
But what an excellent job those barriers did. You saw the speed he was going off. He's doing approximately 130 miles an hour as they press that rise. Okay, granted he got on the brakes, but that impact was still well over 100 miles an hour into the tyres. No wonder he looked a little rattled in the car.
Absolutely. Well, he can go to the medical centre, as drivers do in any accident, large or small these days. We'd seen him out of the car and walking around. So right now, Ash Sutton leads the way, but I think this could be a good couple of laps of safety car. Right, let's have another look. Oh, something's broken, hasn't it?
Well,
to be on that
I'm still not convinced, because when he came into shot, well, that's as a result of hitting the tyres, I think, the damage on the... I'm not convinced. It could have been a failure, but it did look as though this is a further back. Let's watch out the back. Let's look at the camera to the bottom right, because that's going to tell us they're coming up to Hislop chicane, and then the right-hander that's Knickerbrook. I want to see what happens behind, see if there was any kind of contact. Oh, did he clip the tyres there? Clip the tyres, because if you clip the tyres you can then break the tow tracking rod on the back. Yes. Yeah. I think he clipped the tyres at the chicane, and that's what broke the link at the back, right. And then it actually sort of finally went when he came over the hill. Not for the first time, poor Dan Lloyd with his head in his hands. It was on the Weybridge, wasn't it? Where he lost his qualifying time, but now more serious damage.
And that's a lot to repair for race 3, because it's compact timetable Sundays at Oulton Park, starting at 12 o'clock, doesn't give the Restart Racing team much leeway. Right, marshals, track staff, hard at work getting that recticel back in place to protect the barriers, and as soon as possible we'll be underway. It's partly removing the car, of course. Dan Lloyd, as I say, will have a trip to the medical centre.
Well, one thing we do know, at least there was no other car involved, so that was... I mean, it could have just been a failure on itself, but I think it was probably as a result of clipping the tyres that either put the weakness in, and then it finally broke and steered him sharp right.
He doesn't have a lot of luck, does he, Dan Lloyd? And Oulton Park is hardly a kind circuit. If you think back a few seasons, it was coming down from Hilltop towards Hislops, where there was that huge accident that he was involved in. Him and others. Colin Turkington was involved in it as well. So there is the broken Hyundai, and after such a mega drive in the first race, it all kind of unravels for him, sadly, in this. So we're on lap at 6, just started. Race will be extended to a maximum of 3 laps because of this safety car period. Field turning through Old Hall Corner. So it is Ash Sutton from Adam Morgan, Tom Chilton 3rd, and then 4th is Tom Ingram on the hard tyre, Dan Camish 5th, and 6th is Jake Hill. For those that are on the hard tyre then, what does this interruption do in terms of tyres? Because it's going to elongate the race, but equally for the moment it's going to take some of the pressure out of the tyres. They've got Ash Sutton. So the race leader comes over Hilltop. And then Once we've had another look maybe at a replay of that drama, we'll get Tim to talk about what this will do to tyre life. But the field coming out of his lots right now. There's Barry being repaired.
Yeah, the Orange Army and their helpers doing a great job of sorting that's Jelly. He's had mechanical problems all weekend, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Throughout practice and in the races, he had a lot of mechanical issues this weekend. Misfires, exhaust knocking on the bulkhead, and all fuel injector problems, all sorts he's had.
Right, temperature dropping as the wind picks up. Dan Lloyd's car leaves the scene. You're on hard tyres. Is this safety car good or bad?
It's actually good. You can still keep temperature and generate temperature, although it did look as though Ingram and Camish were faring pretty well at the start of that race. They've dropped down to 4th and 5th. The real loser was Smiley, who's dropped down to 13th already. Remember, he was 3rd on the grid. So it's just how quickly you can adapt to these tyres. It is very difficult. But
let's have a quick word with Matt Neal, because he is involved, of course, in restart racing, and Matt is with Louise.
Yeah, as you say, David, Matt is working with Restart Racing this season. Matt, what was your view on that, the incident?
Well, we're getting the same view as you, really. From what we could see, it was such a shame because Danny had a mega first race. He was on the charge in the second one, and he was following Josh up the hill, and the gap decreased. He tried to avoid Josh. There's quite a high curb on the inside, on the apex, the top of the clay hill. I think he just took too much of it, and it bounced the car up. But thank goodness MSV have got recticells up the top of there. We should have more of those around the country, and probably saved us a car today.
They absolutely did their job, didn't they? And for Dan as well. I mean, he just doesn't have much luck at this circuit, does he?
He hasn't having much luck anywhere this season, but yeah, from his qualifying yesterday when he should have been top 6, he shouldn't be starting back there. But, you know, it's such a shame. We'll just get the car back, see what we can do, and then he's got all the work to do in the last one again.
Well, hopefully, the good news is, as you say, that hopefully he'll be out again in race 3, that he's okay. So back to you guys.
Louise, thanks. Different take on it then?
Yeah, I mean, Matt thinks that's the curve he's looking at.
Yeah.
He thinks he went over that, but that wouldn't normally spear the car off. It would normally ride that car, especially being front-wheel drive, it's pulling itself over it. But obviously Matt's only seen a very quick view of it. I think if he sees it again a couple of times, he might see it a bit differently. I think the rear toe link definitely broke, but whether that was as a result of a previous contact or whether it was the touching the tyres at the chicane, you don't know. But I think that's what caused the off. The team doing a great job of repairing those barriers.
Yeah, maybe one more lap, possibly 2, but we are not too far away from getting things back underway. So Dan Lloyd, having been the star of race 1 and his mighty charge past half the field, now ends up with a wrecked car, and we'll see whether he actually makes it out for race 3. As Matt Neal was just saying, they won't know until they get the car back, and you know, time is ticking. It's 3 o'clock now, and the last race is not far after 5 o'clock, is it?
The only good thing is if the race distance is reduced as we get over the allowed safety car laps, that helps Ingram and Camish, because they won't fall as far back under a number of racing laps that they would have done with soft tyre cars behind them.
Yeah, we're going to be at a maximum of 18, aren't we? But all of the extra safety car laps eat into that extension, you're quite right. So down through Denton's into Cascades they come. Nick Halstead, after that spin, by the way, 23rd, although that's really thanks to Stephen Jelly having to make 2 pit stops. In fact, make that another one. He's into the pits for a 3rd time. So Stephen Jelly's race is just an absolute horror story for him at the minute. Right. Let's have another look at Dan Lloyd's demise. I mean,
the only, you could look at lots of positives about it. Here's another one, just trying to see if he can't see if he clips the tyres there, but he's looking on the left-hand side of Josh Cook. Unfortunately, the camera just breaks up at the crucial moment. But at least the car goes in sideways, which spreads the load as much as possible. Oh, bless him. That's not nice to see.
That's a massive impact to go through Dan Lloyd. He's a fit young guy, but even so, that's quite an impact, not just for the car, but for the body. The adrenaline gets him out, and then he's going to feel decidedly sore after all of that. So the barrier repair's almost done. The clerk of the course, Ian Watson, is looking at these pictures. He's looking at the CCTV pictures around the circuit. He'll be getting a report, no doubt, from the safety car team each time they pass as well. And so we can't be too far away from getting things back underway, but we are now on lap number 9. So this goes back to Tim's point that all of these laps now are starting to eat into the number of available racing laps for the drivers.
Which is good for Ingram and Camish, because they won't fall back as far as they would have done if we'd had a full green racing laps.
So through Old Hall Corner they turn, and they're going just into Old Hall, the Toyota of Finn Leslie, having a one-off outing this weekend. He's running in 21st place after a drive shaft drama at the start of the opening race. The safety car down through Island Bend. It's when the lights go out on top of the safety car that we know we're going to be ready for the resumption of the race. But it's not just getting the barrier sorted, then all those marshals and circuit vehicles need to get off the circuit as well. So there is a vehicle access point in the opposite direction from where the incident was, so they're not far away from one if the circuit vehicle can head the wrong way, but we'll need to do that once all the cars have gone past. So lights are still on the safety car for
I'm
now.
hearing race restart this lap, so we'll see if the lights go out as the safety car goes up Clay Hill. Not so far, they should be going off any time now. Yeah,
track's clear.
Track's clear, so lights should go out straight as soon as possible.
So here they come then, out of Druids. The next shot will show us the safety car lights are out. We're going to go racing this time. Here they come then. So as quick as possible, we're going to go back racing. It's up to Ash Sutton then to control the pace, but he can't accelerate until he gets to the go board, which is coming out of Deer Leap. They all bunch up behind him, and this offers a lifeline, doesn't it, to Adam Morgan and to Tom Chilton. Chilton's got 5 laps of boost in total. Morgan's got 6 to the 4 of Sutton. Here they come, nose to tail, green flag ready. We go racing once more at Oulton Park. Over the line goes Ash Sutton to start lap 10 out of 18, down towards Old Hall Corner. Ford, Hyundai, Ford, BMW, Hyundai. Through they turn, Jake Hill round the outside there. Look of Dan Camish, and the BMW on the softer rubber should get through, does get through.
And takes Proctor with him. Proctor sliding through on the inside, pushes Camish out wide. That's also going to bring Josh Cook through. And now we're on board with Aaron Taylor-Smith. So Camish has lost a lot of places on this restart. Hasn't been kind to him.
Indeed so. Out of the hairpin then they come up towards Hilltop. Sutton it is, trying to break away once more. They're going through, you can see Aaron Taylor-Smith squabbling with Dan Camish. 18-lap race, this is lap 10. Here they come, down towards Hislop. So Sutton has the advantage at the moment as he goes right and goes left, then right again into Knickerbrook. Almost running out of real estate there was Taylor-Smith, but he just manages to sort himself out. He's got Dan Rowbottom behind him, who's cleared Charles Rainford on this lap. And back on board, Taylor-Smith's view as they head up towards the exit of Knickerbrook, towards the bottom of Clay Hill. And they're riding that curve you were talking about is Sutton, but he's getting away, isn't he, on this lap from Morgan?
He is. He's done a good restart. Remember, he managed to hold off those Hyundais in race 1, so he knows he's got enough pace to do it. Ingram will be delighted to be stuck in there still in 4th place.
Especially with Camish on comparable tyres, having been shuffled a long, long way back in the pack, just like at Snetterton. Dan does not seem to like the hard tyre, whereas others can adapt to it maybe a little bit better. Sutton goes by, the margin 0.4 of a second at the start of the lap. Big send up the inside there, look, and contact, and way off the road into the barrier goes the BMW. A big hit, more damage, I'm afraid. And that is Charles Rainford BMW that is out of the race.
That'll be another safety car for sure, because that car's in a dangerous place and there's barrier repairs. Yep. This is further good news for Ingram.
Sometimes luck goes with you. I'm sure that was Gordon Shedden trying to make his move on the inside because they were together as they crossed the line. Well, Charles Rainford's BMW amazingly still goes, but the barrier damage may be a concern to race control, and the scrutineers won't like all that. But look at that, the Recticel dragged onto the runoff area. Let's see what happens next.
Well, my admiration for Charles Rainford grows with every race as he channels his inner Gilles Villeneuve. I've had an accident, but I'm driving it anyway back to the pits. But yes, he won't be able to carry on with that flapping bumper, but I'm sure the clerk of the course will also be concerned about the lack of safety barrier in that position.
Yeah, it's got 4 wheels, it still runs, says Charles Rainford. Down towards Lodge Corner comes Ash Sutton once again. Now look, Ingram has dropped back and he's under attack from Jake Hill. So Ingram will go round Oulton and see the barriers, thinking, right, good, come on, need another safety car, that will preserve my place. But Jake Hill won't be able to make a move at Oulton because that's going to be a yellow flag, no overtaking zone. So the frustration for Hill is there, and a yellow flag you can see in the background. There on the outside is the recticel. There is just about room to sort of go onto the grass and survive without clipping that. And for the moment, it doesn't look like we're going to have an interruption.
No, I think they've decided they'll cover that off with just a yellow flag, which is, a little touch there from Jake Hill on the back of Ingram, and that's purely and simply the difference in grip levels mid-corner. And Ingram was going as fast as he could, but Hill underestimated just what that limit was because he had so much more grip himself.
And Hill is taking Proctor with him, look, as they come over the brow, down again towards Hislop's. It's still Sutton, Morgan, Chilton absolutely together for the race lead. There's a big dive in the background coming from Dan Rowbottom up the inside, and he gains a place then at the expense of Aaron Taylor-Smith coming into Hislop's. So the race order is shuffling all the while. We're looking at the back of Josh Cook's Honda there, heading up Clay Hill. He's in 7th place. So Jake Hill on the charge, reigning champion.
And that turn 1 is actually one of the favourite overtaking places for the BMW by getting really good traction off this next corner lodge. Usually the BMW is able to dive up the inside into turn 1, but of course that's now impossible with the yellow flag. So Ingram could take his time through here, knowing he can't be overtaken into turn 1.
He's doing a grand job of hanging on to that place on that slower tyre as Dan Camish was shuffled back into 8th place a lap or so ago. The leaders go through then. We've got 6 laps to go. Still Sutton leading the way. Still Chilton has that fastest lap of the race to his credit. Big gap between the top 3 and the rest. Replay here. This is for the BMW of Daryl De Leon, and you'll see it all kicking off maybe up the road. Let's see what he does. He goes to the outside of James Dorlin.
Well, that was a really nice pass. He used his momentum coming off Old Hall and went for the gap on the inside before they got to Cascades. That was a good move by De Leon.
Was indeed, so that now moves him up the order. Oh, that was rather less impressive, into the back of Mikey
Has that done the radiator?
Smoke out of the front. As there, Hill has another look on the inside of Ingram. So Daryl De Leon, for the moment, battles on, but maybe that car is not long for the race. You can see the queue now is building behind Ingram.
Yeah, Ingram's driving a canny race. He's just blocking where he needs to. Because Hill's got Proctor right behind him, he's trying to attack and defend, and every time Ingram just slows him up a bit, it puts Hill under pressure from Proctor and compromises him. This is a very clever race by Ingram.
It puts Jake Hill under pressure from another of Tom Ingram's teammates, of course. Different colour scheme, but all out of the same stable at Accelerate. So yeah, Jake Hill trying to get past one Hyundai. He's being attacked by another. Ash Sutton, though, is still leading the way. He's just got across the line.
The only thing is, if Hill can finally get past or open the inside door up to get inside Ingram, it could let 3 or 4 cars through at the same time. Same thing that happened to Camish. This is back on board with De Leon behind Sam Osborne. These two have already had contact this weekend, right here, at this point here.
And Osborne, look, he's trying to attack Chris Smiley, who's on that harder tyre. So there's another queue building up then. Smiley ahead of Osborne, ahead of De Leon. And that graphically shows you the difference that the tyre makes, doesn't it? Smiley having been so quick in race 1 and now struggling on that harder, slower rubber. Daryl De Leon is still fighting on, isn't he, despite the damage at the front of that car from earlier, as Jake Hill dances through the chicane again at Hislop's.
Well, I was worried it was radiator coolant that was spraying out in front of that car. Looks like it's just pushed the bodywork onto the tyre and it's a bit of tyre rub, so De Leon can carry on. As once again Hill spends a lap or 2 building up again to get back on the back of Ingram, only for something to happen to that's a problem.
Proctor.
That's a problem for Proctor's left front.
Yeah. So lots of smoke. Gets away with it, or does he? Coming down towards Lodge. Let's see, is there smoke this time around? Yes, there it is again.
That's an odd one. That is an odd one because it wasn't rubbing all the time. It wasn't rubbing to start with.
No.
And Rowbottom is flashing the lights at him, trying to tell him he's got a problem.
And Proctor, what if it's smoke, steam, something coming out of the front of the car. Senna Proctor is hanging on to it, and it's not consistent, as you say. Scrutineers will want to look at that, won't they?
Yeah, and it's a strange one. He's with weaving about just as if he knows there's a problem, trying to feel what it is. But he's not hemorrhaging a lot of lap time, is he?
No, right. So Rowbottom wants to get past, and he's also trying to alert Proctor to the fact that there's smoke coming off the car. That is Tom Ingram. Look, Rowbottom goes really on the attack, and Proctor is able to defend, so the car still has the pace, and he's had that smoky issue for the best part of a lap now.
Yeah, what it does mean, of course, though, is it gets him off the tail of Hill, which means that Hill can attack Ingram without having Proctor on the back of him.
Rowbottom on the attack then. This is for 6th and 7th. Aaron Taylor-Smith's view here, coming out of Cascades. Camish ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going to happen here because there's quite a big gap between them. Well, what's going to happen is his teammate, Gordon Shedden, is going to come all the way around the outside. Obviously got a much better exit from Cascades. This is on board with De Leon into the hairpin. Who's up the right-hand side is Smiley, who's been defending like crazy on those hard tyres.
So that's going to put Gordon Shedden now up into 10th, having started race 1, 25th. So he's chipped away over the course of the day. Rowbottom has cleared Proctor, so has Cook. The car, and off the road now goes Aaron Taylor-Smith. That's another car in strife. And that is, I'm afraid to say,
that looks like the same
further.
place actually that Lloyd went off.
Oh, I was thinking.
No, it's not. It's after the island hairpin. I think it's pulled off on the right there by that marshal's post.
Right.
That's why we've got yellow flags there.
So we have got 2.5 laps to go, and there's another car that's gone. Nick Halstead, I think, has gone straight on up the escape road. A lot happening all of a sudden here.
Yeah, all of a sudden you like this race to go on, really. Yeah. Feel cheated with those lost laps.
Right, so we're starting to lose cars. Dan Lloyd's out, Aaron Taylor-Smith is out, looks like Nick Halstead is out. We've got Proctor possibly on borrowed time with a smoky left front for reasons that we need to get to the bottom of. And there is another yellow flag being waved on the run up the hill. This is Aaron Taylor-Smith's view, so maybe he is off in a similar place to where Dan Lloyd had his dramas, because as he heads up Clay Hill, there's that interference on the camera. He goes up towards Water Tower and
yeah, it was the same
off.
place. Yeah, it was the same. I was right first time.
But he
sounded like he had an engine problem, didn't he, all the way up the hill?
Yeah, smoke out of the back. I was going to say he pulls off rather than spins off. So the yellows at Island Bend were for Nick Halstead, who I think's gone straight on up the escape road.
It's all kicking off.
Right, and that rather sums up the mood, doesn't it? Aaron just hides as best he can. And a very hot and bothered Toyota there.
Yeah, that looked like there was a... don't want to say there was an engine blow-up, but it looked like it could well have been.
So tough day for the local team, Toyota Gazoo Racing UK, based not that far away, near Northwich. Right, down towards Island Bend again comes Jake Hill. He's right on the back of Tom Ingram, who has had a Herculean task to hang on to that place. Yeah, okay, that safety car period helped him, but even so, look at the way that Ingram has gone compared to Dan Camish or Chris Smiley, who've fallen a bit further back.
And quite clearly the pace, I mean, for Ingram to be able to hold off Jake Hill, the champion, on soft tyres when he's on hards, that shows just how good that car-driver combination is. That's going to have the others really worried, because they should be able to walk past him.
And we understand that rain is falling at Knickerbrook now, so just in case there wasn't enough going on, there are spots of rain falling on the far side of the circuit as Ash Sutton then leads Adam Morgan, and Tom Chilton's dropped a long way back all of a sudden as they are about to come through to start the last lap. Ingram still fighting. To the outside line goes Jake Hill and can't get the undercut, can he? The leader goes on to his last lap, and Jake Hill comes off Dear Leap about 3 lengths back.
Well, he was trying to set up a cutback, wasn't he? But you saw at the end of the braking for Hill, his car was sliding about, almost like there was rain falling there, but it may have just been that he got out on the marbles and didn't quite have the grip he wanted to cut back to the inside. And again, that's just giving Ingram a little bit of a gap. Final lap, Sutton leads Morgan, leads Chilton, leads Ingram.
And remember, Sutton is looking for win number 4 of the season in the Napa Racing UK Ford. There is championship rival Tom Ingram banking points, but now you can understand why Sutton tactically dropped back in race 1. He got points for 4th, not 3rd, but he's been able to then power forward for a win on the quicker tyre.
Yeah, but unfortunately for him, not for Ingram, but unfortunately for him, Ingram hasn't fallen back as far as he would have expected. We were all thinking Ingram were doing well to stay in the top 10. In fact, that was Ingram's own prediction. He's done much better than that. He's in 4th, and of course we've got to remember the final positions for the reverse grid from 6th to 10th, or 12th, sorry. Rowbottom, Cook, Proctor, Camish, Shedden and Doble.
So down towards Lodge Corner comes Ash Sutton. He is on target then for a 4th victory of the season. He makes the run now up towards the timing line. It's a win for Ash Sutton at Oulton Park. The Ford crosses the line to win with Adam Morgan taking 2nd, and Tom Chilton comes home in 3rd. After that, it is just Ingram being able to hang on in there as he takes 4th ahead of Jake Hill, and Dan Rowbottom coming home in 6th from 14th on the grid. Good drive ahead of Josh Cook, Senna Proctor, Gordon Shedden 9th, and that is also his best result of the season, so well done to Flash, with Dan Camish taking 10th place. But that 46th career win for Ash Sutton, a brilliant drive, and so much of that, as you see the rain now falling on the camera lens down on the far part of the circuit, so much of that was done early on with that Demon start again, a bit like Thruxton.
It was an excellent first lap, and we had him down to win, but that's in timely fashion as the rain arrives. If this rain stays, and we said it's a short turnaround before race 3, then Ash Sutton won't have to race on that hard tyre.
Well, right now he can celebrate a win, he can think about points, he can wave to the fans and to the marshals for the trackside, and Ash Sutton not only wins, but he also got the fastest lap of the race on lap number 14, so that's another point, good for the championship, and of course he gets the lap leader point as well, so another bank raid of points for Ash Sutton. Quick look further down the order at 1 or 2 others. Chris Smiley 14th on that hard tyre. Darryl De Leon was 15th, and Finn Leslie in what you might call his first proper race, because he started at the same time as everybody else on that one, 17th. Okay, not in the points, but
he's got a race under his belt.
Yeah,
he's got a race under his belt. He's learnt a lot, I'm sure, and he's held his end up very well indeed.
So Ash Sutton then the race winner. There is Finn Leslie, guesting this weekend out of TCR UK into the BTCC for Toyota Gazoo Racing UK. Ronan Pearson sadly has had to stand down, and Finn Leslie this weekend joins the team. Ash Sutton, the winner of round 14 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship from Adam Morgan. Tom Chilton 3rd ahead of Tom Ingram. Jake Hill 5th, then Dan Rowbottom, and it's an independent win this time for 7th placed Josh Cook. Senna Proctor 8th ahead of Gordon Shedden's best result of the year. Top 10 rounded out by Dan Camish. Mikey Doble taking 11th ahead of Sam Osborne, then James Dorlin, Chris Smiley, and the last point scorer is Darryl De Leon. Aidan Moffat came next, just ahead of Finn Leslie, then Max Hall clearing teammate and rival Dexter Patterson, and 20th was Nick Hamilton. 21st, Charles Rainford after his spin into the barriers at Old Hall. We lost Aaron Taylor-Smith. We lost Nick Halstead. Stephen Jelly was in and out of the pits with problems, and we lost Dan Lloyd in spectacular fashion earlier on. Championship, Ash Sutton is in charge, 7 points to the margin, but look at the gap that those two have now built over 3rd place Dan Camish. It's a massive 65 points splitting Ingram from Camish, with Rowbottom 4th and Hill 5th. Morgan is next ahead of Chilton, Cook, Smiley and Rainford.
Challenging conditions here at Oulton Park, a range of options and outcomes, the perfect mix for round 15 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. It's over to Tim Harvey and David Addison.
And it's a wet track, it's a reverse grid, it's a challenging circuit, it's going to be dramatic.
And as ever, Steve Ryder is absolutely right. It's the perfect combination for a fitting final race, isn't it? Because the wet conditions are always a great leveller. Everybody is on the wet tyre, at least as they leave the grid now. The track conditions look like they'll dry. We've got the reverse grid, the top 9 reverse, so Shedden gets a chance from pole position. It's a fascinating racing prospect.
So Gordon Shedden on pole position. Now bear in mind, he started the day 25th on the grid. He got 16th in the first race, he got 9th in the second race. He's on pole position for the final. That underlines how you rebuild your day. Let's look at the grid then. It's Gordon Shedden on pole position. Senna Proctor with him at the front. 2 8th places for Senna. Josh Cook starts 3rd after a 9th and a 17th today. Then it's Dan Rowbottom, 14th in race 1 and 6th in race 2. Jake Hill comes next, Tom Ingram alongside, then it's Tom Chilton and Adam Morgan 8th. 9th is Ash Sutton. Dan Camish will line up 10th ahead of Mikey Doble and Sam Osborne, then James Dorlin and Chris Smiley. After the restart racing Hyundai, you've got Darryl De Leon, who's had a tough day with an 18th and a 15th. Aidan Moffat next ahead of Finn Leslie in his first outing in a touring car. Max Hall next. Dexter Patterson is going to be starting from 19th on the grid with Nicholas Hamilton for company. We understand no Aaron Taylor-Smith nor Nick Halstead after problems in the earlier race. Stephen Jelly has had all sorts of engine-related issues and he is going to start 23rd. Dan Lloyd's rebuilt car, or repaired car, 24th. And Charles Rainford excluded for a technical infringement over boosting, we understand, in the second race. He's going to start at the very back. So the boost that the drivers are going to carry is based on how they cross the line in the earlier race. So Gordon Shedden starting on pole and with the full allocation of 8 laps available, and that scales all the way back to the race 2 winner Ash Sutton on just the 1 lap, and then behind him they're all on 8 laps of boost. But it has become a pretty wet circuit in a pretty short space of time.
It has, but everyone's mindful of how quickly the track dried yesterday, but it was a lot warmer yesterday. It will dry because we've got all 23 cars on track, but I don't think it's going to dry quite as quick. But at some point during the race, depending on safety cars, we could well be dry. That side of the track looks distinctly drier.
Before we go racing, let's just quickly tidy up that Dan Lloyd situation. You heard him saying on the grid he felt he was squeezed by Josh Cook. Tim, let's have a look at this.
Yeah, this is a much better view we'll get, because what happens is he gets a run out of Knickerbrook. That's Josh Cook in front. Look, he's got momentum, he's got a run. He goes to the inside and he feels that Cook squeezed him onto the grass. He was all 4 wheels on the grass and lost control completely. I mean, not his fault, but as I suspected when I first saw it, there had to have been another car involved. Cook pushed me on the grass is his explanation. There was some room between them. I think it was more a case of Dan Lloyd, bless him, taking avoiding action. I think most drivers would have stayed on the track and, if anything, forced Cook to run wide. There was more tarmac to the right than there was to the left, but a very unfortunate incident. Great job by Restart to get him back out for this race.
So Gordon Shedden on pole position, important race in a sense because the local Toyota Gazoo Racing UK team has had a tough start to the season. It's been a really tough return to the championship for Gordon Shedden. Is he, as it's now starting, yes, to brighten a little bit once more here, is he going to be hard to beat, or is this an absolute lottery, this race?
It is a lottery. He's taking no chances with his grid box. He's a good 4 feet behind the front of his grid box, so there's no danger of being out of place there. Josh Cook, on the other hand, is right to the front of his, so he's signalling his intentions off the second row.
Josh Cook also looking for a win. We've had 9 different winners of races so far this year. We could be on, perhaps should be on, for a 10th. The circuit is wet. The 5-second board is shown. Round 15 of the Quick Fix British Touring Car Championship from Oulton Park is go, and a good getaway by Shedden, an even better start by Josh Cook, and Jake Hill gets a good start. Dan Robots and moves across on him. They get all very, very busy running up alongside one another down towards Oulton Hall for the first time. Shedden will lead the way. Cook second, Hill third. Robo goes fourth. So Gordon Shedden leads, but others run wide coming out of Oulton Hall as they drop down the avenue for the first time. Toyota leads Honda.
Yeah, slightly slow initially from Shedden, but he managed to hold the lead. I thought he was going to lose it, but it looked to me very much like Jake Hill was almost in the pit wall.
Absolutely right, because he committed, and then Dan Rowbottom moved across as they come down towards a very wet Island Bend hairpin for the first time. Shedden with all of that experience. And if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, Knock Hill, rain, don't think about that, because right now in Cheshire it is Gordon Shedden that leads the way, and I'm sure it'll be bright and sunny at Knock Hill when we get there in August. Shedden leading Cook, small gap to Hill third. Robo is fourth, and that's Cook going straight on into his lots up the Escape Road, and he's going to have to slot in behind Shedden, which he does, and Jake Hill's going to get past as well.
Yeah, well, he definitely hasn't gained an advantage. He could have rejoined in front of Hill, I think, without having gained an advantage. He gave up a little bit too much, but it's very hard to see in the car where everybody is, actually, when you're rejoining. You can't turn your head, and the mirrors are very small.
But that's Chris Smiley out of the race, so a really up and down sort of a day for Restart Racing. I was going to say Gordon Shedden's got a really big lead at the end of the opening lap with Jake Hill second, and then Josh Cook in third place. Here they come through Lodge Corner, but the Toyota is out on its own.
Yeah, the circuit's quite patchy, isn't it? There are areas of the circuit that are not too wet and others that are very wet. So it is quite different around there. It won't be too long before the guys perhaps even start to search out a bit of wet side by side. Sometimes the outside is quicker for grip, and Cook's going all the way around the outside of Jake Hill.
Nicely done. Gordon Shedden with all that experience leads the way. Cook's got the inside line for Cascades, but Jake Hill stands his ground. Good racing, and Jake Hill is ahead as Adam Morgan pits in front of us. So Hill, Cook, Robotham, second, third, fourth as yellow lights, yellow flags because of Chris Smiley's demise. But Gordon Shedden using all of the experience to good use and being helped by this battle, delaying the three behind.
Yeah, that was great side-by-side racing. The lines are very different in the wet, so what worked for Josh Cook at turn 1 didn't work for him at turn 2 and was repeated by Jake Hill.
And he's under attack from Robotham, look, as well as they come into his lots. So Shedden led at the opening end of the opening lap by a second and a half. This is Sutton's view as he comes now on the back of Dan Camish through his lots. Chris Smiley's car parked up the escape road. That's the green light to say it's okay. You can carry on overtaking now and build up your speed once more the other side of the incident zone. So Cook here with Robotham behind him. Now look, they've dropped off the back of Jake Hill just a little bit, and that BMW now is the main threat to Gordon Shedden if Jake can get away from the others behind him.
Well, he's not scampering away, is he? They're keeping him honest, and it was Robotham puts the lights on, again signalling intent, but Cookie blocks him, but outbrakes himself. Oh, Cookie was looking in the mirrors to defend from Robotham. He outbraked himself, and is he going to keep going? Maybe on the wet tarmac, on the wet gravel, he can keep going. But yeah, Jake Hill has always been really quick in these conditions, and he has kept going, so that will be good.
But that's the second mistake under braking from Josh Cook here, and of course at his lots on the opening lap. So is there something more than him just outbraking himself? Was there an issue?
It could be just brake bias not being correct, but he's enough experience to know where to set it. But yeah, it is unusual to see two mistakes like that.
And in quick succession, yeah. So Shedden leads. The gap is a second and a half. Last time around he was quicker again. Robotham is on the move as well. Max Hall there, you're looking at the back of as he comes out of Cascades down towards the hairpin. Everybody hunting for traction.
Moffat and Hall were both slow coming off Cascade, so I think they'd had a little incident which is carrying on. They're around the rest of the lap side by side.
Indeed so, and Josh Cook went over the line 21st. We've lost Smiley. Adam Morgan has rejoined. No, Adam Morgan has also stopped after pitting. So after a good result in the earlier race in the Hyundai, big stride for Morgan early days in this. Right, up front, Shedden to Hill, but Shedden gapping the rest of them because Hill has now got Robotham up behind him. Let's have a look at sector times. In the first one, Hill and Robotham demonstrably quicker than the leader, Shedden, and I'm still convinced Cook's got a problem. That's not a quick car.
No, he's not going at full race pace. Well, Robotham was actually alongside Hill coming into that shot of the going into his lot chicane we saw briefly. He's really flying. Cam is trying to get past Proctor. Remember, this is Proctor's first time experiencing the wet, isn't it? He's only just come back at Thruxton. We didn't have any wet there, so he's got a feel for it very quickly. Oh, down the inside, throws the Camish, but don't forget there's more grip on the outside now. Sutton's got a great run on the both of them.
So Sutton tries to get ahead of Camish and gets all sideways again. Sutton goes through, and now it's up to him to try to attack Senna Proctor, and all of this is going on for 4th, 5th and 6th. Sutton gets a really good run out of Cascades, comes up alongside. Camish did the fastest lap of the race last time through, but actually he's got shuffled back in the pack, and look how that lead gap is coming down, 1.4 seconds now. So Shedden still being chased by Hill, then Robotham. It's Sutton 4th, it is Proctor 5th, it's Camish in 6th. Ash Sutton charges on now as you get the replay of what happened to Camish on the inside, sideways.
Little bit of contact there. Here, listen to the wheel spin on Sutton's car. He didn't want to lift off at all, did he? Yeah, a little bit of a sideways road from Camish allowed Sutton to get inside. But look, Proctor runs wide and Sutton gets a great run off the corner and actually manages to outbrake him on the outside. Gains 2 places in 100 yards.
Gordon Shedden is still being caught. Look, Josh Cook's car limping on. There is clearly a big issue with that, and it's almost at snail's pace as the lead gap continues to come down. Jake Hill is getting closer and closer and closer. Let's have a look at what happened to Tom Ingram here, being roughed up by Mikey Doble down at his lops. So a bit of hit and shoulder. Ting bounces back onto the track.
Bounces on the track, no advantage gain, carry on. But you're right, that lead battle is closing up. It's going to be a very nice 3-way fight in a minute, isn't it?
It is indeed.
And that could allow Sutton in 4th to close up.
Yeah, so Shedden to Hill is under a second now. Jake's just done the fastest lap of the race. It's 0.9 of a second as the leaders go through. Sutton next up, he's doing a 33.9. He's not, he's again quicker than the race leader Gordon Shedden. So it's all concertinery with Proctor 5th, Camish 6th. In 7th place now is Mikey Doble. 8th it is Tom Chilton. Tom Ingram is 9th. James Dorlin is 10th. And Darrell de Leon's rather testing day brings him into the pits.
Yeah, they're not preparing slicks there. Looks like, if anything, they're preparing another wet tyre. Are they going to take them all off? I'm not sure. Yeah, slicks going on.
Interesting.
Well, that's going to... I mean, they're not ready for him, and they need to do it on the same lap, and that must be
Dan Lloyd,
because Smiley's already stopped.
Indeed so. So Dan Lloyd, you saw going up the escape road. He was in 11th place. Oh, what a day. So the race leader is Gordon Shedden. The gap was 9/10 of a second when they went across the line. There is Shedden, there is Hill. Rowbottom is third. And through the spots of water on the camera lens, you see Sutton fourth. That's Stephen Jelly, who's gone straight on and up the escape road, going now through his lots. He rejoins and then gets a little bit wide and onto the curb as Max Hall scampers past him. You can tell it's race 3, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. And Moffat, which signs of that earlier rubbing with Max Hall, he's got a wing that's just flapping a bit. Well, we know the clerk of the course doesn't like loose bodywork. That certainly constitutes it.
Does rather. So the race leader is Gordon Shedden, and the gap from 9/10 is 6/10 of a second now as Jake Hill gets ever closer. There they are with Rowbottom, this constant shadow in third place, looking to bank yet more points. So tense times for Gordon Shedden, because that's not been the quickest car all season, but he's got so much experience as Gordon. Remember, he knows exactly what to do. Ash Sutton, though, fourth, fastest lap of the race, so it could be a four-way fight before long.
Yeah, and, I mean, I'm intrigued to watch the speed of the BMW. It was always very quick in wet conditions. Remember earlier in the year, though, it suffered when they were too wet, but these should be ideal conditions for the BMW.
But Gordon Shedden, a triple champion, is being reeled in. That is Josh Cook's day effectively done. So it's been a tough day all round for One Motorsport, but Gordon Shedden is very soon going to have to start defending. Remember, Jake Hill was a winner here last year. He got the lead off Mikey Doble on the last lap. So Jake never gives up. James Dorlin there alongside Tom Ingram, the Toyota on the inside, Ingram's Hyundai on the outside, and Dorlin's going to secure the place. Is he? And Ingram's another one that just can't find room to turn in. It's safer to get up the escape road. Yeah,
so there's a few people having problems there. Now, he's joined well ahead of Dorlin now, so he needs to give some time back. Doesn't he? Look. He's slowing down, I think, but there's a big gap there.
But yes, Tom Ingram slows down to try and redress the balance, if you like. So
he's going to let him pass.
He is. He picks up that fight and slot in behind him and then play on, as it were. Down towards Lodge Corner they come. So James Dorlin goes through, and now Ingram picks up the pace. So that's how you should do it. Don't gain an advantage, and self-censorship in a sense for Tom Ingram. Right, race leaders have gone through, and it's now 0.2 of a second between Shedden and Hill. Over the timing line goes Tom Ingram, but this is for the race lead, and Jake Hill almost fainting to the inside line there. Gordon Shedden has led the first 6 laps of the race. He may not lead a 7th because Jake Hill's getting closer, and the longer the BMW is stuck behind, the easier it's going to be for Dan Rowbottom to challenge. Look, it's nearly 3 for the lead once again. This, though, is where you'll see all of the experience of Gordon Shedden, and that's Max Hall in the Lodge Corner gravel, and that may well, in fact, should trigger, I would have thought, a safety car.
Yeah, definitely, because he's exactly in the line of fire if somebody locks up the brakes and carries on into there. Those brave marshals trying to push it, but there's no way they're going to move that car without some mechanical help. But safety car is out, which gives us time to reflect as these 3 will immediately back off. What's fascinating to me is that Ingram is struggling in these conditions. Ingram is 12th. There isn't the sign of pace that you'd expect from him, and of course this is reminiscent of what happened at Brands Hatch at the title decider last year.
Yeah, but interestingly, Senna Proctor and Tom Chilton in the same car are further up the road, so 5th and 8th. Interesting, isn't it? Just while we've got the safety car, and as Tim says, we can pause for breath and reflect. It stopped raining, it's getting brighter, the cloud is breaking, and there's a little bit of blue sky, so the road might be drying a bit faster now.
Yeah, it could well do. I mean, especially if it takes, what they need to do is wait for everybody to close up behind the safety car, so the crocodile, if you like, is shorter. Then if you're near the back, when you stop and change tyres, you don't lose a whole lap because you can get back out in time. The sooner you do it as well, the better, because you have more time to warm your slicks up. But it's still very treacherous in places.
And Darryl De Leon lost a lap anyway with his pit stop, and it was sort of, as we'd seen, a bit impromptu. They weren't ready for him.
And the other thing is that if you've used your 2 soft tyres, the only option you've got is to put hard slicks on, which of course don't warm up as quick and don't offer as much grip either. But look, they're all driving around on the wettest parts of the circuit. They're all trying to cool their wet tyres as much as possible.
So the incident is down at Lodge Corner, where Max Hall's car is being retrieved. Safety car to Island Bend. Gordon Shedden there, the race leader, finds a big puddle on the outside of Island Bend, doesn't he? So the race order is Gordon Shedden in the lead, from Jake Hill second, Dan Robottom third. Ash Sutton is going to be a winner out of all of this because he'll close on the top three. Remember, Sutton has done the fastest lap of the race. Senna Proctor fifth, Dan Camish is sixth, Mikey Doble seventh ahead of Tom Chilton, James Dorlin, Sam Osborne into the top 10 ahead of Charles Rainford. Ingram is down to 12th now. So not only did he have his moment with Dorlin at Hislops, but he lost further places after that, suggesting that all is not well. Point scorers rounded out by Moffat, Jelly and Finn Leslie and his first touring car event. Now, Dan Lloyd, after his trip up the Escape Road, 18th.
Yes, this is Cookie still going slowly and looking like he's pulling off. He's got the indicator on. So there's obviously more things amiss because he came back out of the pit lane. Maybe they were just trying to check it, but I think he's indicating not so much to to pull off, but just to let other cars past. Or is he going to pull off? He's going very slowly. But yeah, the relative pace of Ingram, you know, he is battling with Osborne, Rainford, Moffat. If it were dry, he would not be in that situation. So I don't think they've got that wet pace right in that Hyundai anyway. On board with Ash Sutton. Yes, as you say, he will like this situation, closing up. The sun's come out now, so the track is going to dry ever so quickly after this.
There's still a bit of a breeze as well to get rid of the water. Max Hall's car, you saw a moment ago, out of the gravel on the inside of Lodge Corner in the vehicle access point. And while we have a moment behind the safety car, I think we probably aren't that far off going racing again. Let's look at Sutton's start.
Yeah, so this is the warm-up lap, this is the formation lap. He's just doing a practice start there. So it wasn't the actual race start, it was just a practice start.
So the cars coming towards Island Bend, and Gordon Shedden, race leader, are on lap 9. Remember, the race can be extended by up to 3 laps with the safety car deployment. People trying to look after their tyres now, whether it's to keep them cool, maintain the pressures. Safety car lights still on. It's when those lights go out we know we're going to have the indication to go back racing, but the hope would be it's this time because the track is clear looking into the distance from where we are coming out of Deer League. It looks like everything is sorted.
Well, we saw earlier the safety lights didn't go out until the car was almost at Druids, which is coming up to now, which doesn't leave a lot of time for everybody to close up.
No, that's true. So the field then now coming up towards Druids. It was the other side of the double apex right last time. The lights were extinguished, and there they go. So the green flag is ready on the start line. Josh Cook has just made it back into the pits, which is a great relief, so nobody has to worry about getting past him when they go back racing. The troubled one, Motorsport Honda, is in the pit lane, and Gordon Shedden's Toyota Corolla leads the pack, but for how much longer?
But look, they're still coming round Druids. They haven't even been able to catch up the back of the field yet.
So Shedden gets to the go board at Deer League and will accelerate now. So Jake Hill sets off behind him, but Dan Robottom is on his toes, looking for the inside line as they head in towards Old Hall. Robottom up the inside line, goes for second place, and there's a little brush ever so slight between them, and here comes Sutton. Ash Sutton's got the inside line for Denton's, and he's gone second. Fantastic move. Ash Sutton, brilliant opportunities of up to second briefly. Hill fights back, so Sutton is down to third, but Robottom, the one that lost out most.
Yeah, I mean, Sutton loves it when the car's in front rub going through Old Hall and he gets a run. He did, as you say, get into second, third briefly, but Hill fought back at Cascades and just eased him wide, so back down to third goes Sutton.
So it was a very opportunistic move coming out of Old Hall. It worked, but it put him on the wrong side for the next part of the racetrack as Jake Hill now tries to assert himself once more. Down to Hislops. It's still Gordon Shedden in the lead ahead of Hill. Sutton third, Robottom fourth, and driver in the background. Mikey Doble gets hit. He gets turned across the front. I think everyone's missed him, and who went into the back of him? Is that Chilton's Hyundai? I think it is. So Tom Chilton got into the back, and he's obviously bound for the pit lane.
Obviously can't carry on like that, even though he can see underneath the front of the bonnet. And there's poor Mikey Doble's car nose into the barrier. He might be able to reverse out of there, actually. I hope so, otherwise we're going to have another safety car.
Tom Chilton's trying to get himself back to Druids and back to the pit lane safely. Shedden is still leading there, despite everything that you might expect to be thrown at him. He is still there, and the laps are ticking on down. Here comes Chilton, bang, into the back of Doble.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cars having problems braking there. gently into the barrier, so he should be able to reverse that out. But there's a lot of people locking up on the braking to Hislop, so it's obviously a greasy part of the track. Chilton didn't do that deliberately, just ever so slightly outbraked himself.
Shedden, Hill, top 2, Sutton, Rowbottom, 3rd and 4th. So Jake Hill trying to make an attack now on that Toyota ahead.
And interestingly, Sutton, if you look, he's not really on the back of Hill, is he? I expected to see them come back into shot with Sutton all over the back of Hill. But these are changing conditions.
Yeah, he's a little bit closer as Hill attacks Shedden. Maybe Ash is just waiting to see what pans out between these two, because Jake, we know, is a really fiery character. He wants that lead, but it's a yellow flag. Safety car again. Second safety car period coming down towards Hislop. So Gordon Shedden still leads the way, but the safety car has been called once more.
Well, I was looking to see if Mikey Doble's car remained there. I couldn't see it from that camera shot, but at the moment, yes, it is. That's why we've had to have that. That's a shame, because it wasn't a big impact or anything. I'm surprised he obviously just couldn't get it restarted.
And maybe on that wet grass, it's very difficult to reverse off it anyway. That Hislop chicane is not Mikey's place. It was there he lost a possible win last year when Jake Hill passed him on the last lap, remember? And now he's got a damaged car and he's out of the race. And a lot of damage. It wasn't just the bonnet popping up, was it, on Tom Chilton's car? Look at the front, really mangled.
Yeah, well, when you lock up, the car almost accelerates. And I mean, it doesn't look that bad, does it? But I guess the one car braking and one car almost speeding up, and explaining to Barry Ploughman there.
With the bonnet up to get through the slalom and avoid Chris Smiley's parked car. I'm impressed by that from Tom Chilton. Well done. Right, safety car 2 of this race. And we can only have a maximum of 18 laps. So Gordon Shedden now is the man thinking, right, let's stay out behind the safety car, because all of these laps are preserving my lead.
Well, yes, and yeah, he actually made a good restart, didn't he? He made a good restart. He held that lead. Denson Patterson in clearly for slicks. De Leon, who changed onto slicks, is still in 18th. But the problem they've got is that the safety car lights are going out so late. The people at the back of the pack have not closed up the crocodile. So the advantage, they're losing a huge amount of track time. I saw on the restart, the cars at the back of the field were trailing over the line ages behind the ones in front, and it was supposed to be a nice tight line of cars all restarting together, but the safety car lights are going out too late.
Dexter Patterson is going to rejoin on the lead lap. Daryl De Leon lost a lap, so even though he's on slicks, he's out of the equation, as there is the safety car turning its way out of Hislops.
And the interesting thing is that Dexter Patterson's managed to go out on soft tyres, so they will heat up quicker, which will be a good advantage.
So let's see how much longer the safety car is required. Well, it's going to be at least one more lap, because the telehandler is only now arriving on the scene. So we're going to have a little bit more safety car lappery, I'm afraid. Mikey Doble putting his helmet back on, because he'll be needed, I think, to get into the car and assist. Let's see. Telehandler arrives anyway. So Mikey Doble's car to be removed, and then we'll be in business.
Yeah, I think they're just going to tow it out the way. They're not going to lift it. I think they're just going to tow it. But he has to be in the car to steer it.
That's right.
Even backwards.
So, of course, while all this is going on, race control want to get the race back up and running as soon as. And all these laps eating into the available time that we have, with 18 being the maximum number of laps available.
I can tell you these wet tyres are going to be absolutely shredded at the end of the race. Absolutely shredded. Because the track is drying out so fast with the sunlight on it as well now.
So there's Ash Sutton then, and he is currently in 3rd place. And Gordon Shedden, the race leader, perhaps on borrowed time.
Points as it stands, Sutton leads Ingram by 16 points. Dan Camish 3rd, 71. Ingram has managed to gain a few places after that in between the two race starts. Remember, he was 12th, he's now 9th.
Yeah, that's right. And the other driver that we haven't actually touched on, but has had a really quite astonishing run in this, is Charles Rainford, because he was put to the back of the grid, wasn't he, after being excluded from race 2. So he started 25th. That was effectively 23rd, because we had 2 non-starters. But Charles Rainford, and there he is in 8th place. How about that?
That's astonishing, yeah. What a terrific drive he's had. Just shows that BMW can, when it works, it really works, doesn't it?
And Charles has been one of the real standout rookies this season, and he's got great competitive spirit. Very different style of racing from Carrera Cup, but yeah, he certainly looks like he belongs, that's for sure. And he's not done yet, of course. He's 8th, but we've got a few more laps, hopefully. Still 2 go. Right, so lights are on the safety car. It comes through Druids. Gordon Shedden is your race leader. There'll be a lot of nervous faces on the Toyota Gazoo Racing UK pit wall as the lights go out, because on a home circuit for Speedworks they'd like a win, and Gordon Shedden has had a really tough return to the championship, but can he hang on in there?
And once again they've gone out the same place, so only the front half of the grid will actually be aligned. They're not supposed to be more than 2 car lengths apart, but there's only the front grid that's doing that.
So we're going to go racing again, as now Gordon Shedden accelerates away. So is Ash Sutton going to make a move against Jake Hill? Yes, he is, but Jake covers that off. And all of that squabbling might just give the lifeline to Gordon Shedden that he needs. So Shedden leads, Hill second, Sutton is third, Rowbottom is fourth, small gap to Proctor fifth. So it's really that leading quartet we need to keep an eye on. And this is Sutton's view. That's Jake Hill ahead as they go down towards Cascades. But Shedden still leads. It's an 18-lap race now, and we've got just under 5 to go.
Yes, and of course you've got a drier part of the track now. Oh no, Nick Hamilton is now off.
And down towards Island Bend they come, but that surely is going to be another safety car period, and that I fear would take us to the end.
I think it could well do. What a shame, but
that's Charles Rainford on his toes. He gets up past James Dorlin. Over the brow they come. This is for 7th place. So down towards Hislop, Gordon Shedden leads. Maybe the teams will be on the radio to the likes of Hill and Sutton saying there might be another safety car, so make a move if you can as soon as possible. There's no hanging about to be done now. You've got to get there. Out of Knickerbrook, up Clay Hill for the 14th time of asking. Tom Ingram gaining ground on the outside line. The car squirming a little bit as the damp conditions are still there, ready to catch out 1 or 2. I'm keeping an eye on what the flags and the boards around the circuit are doing, because right now we are still under green flag conditions, and we've still got Gordon Shedden as the race leader as he covers off the inside line. He's not a triple champion for nothing, is he? All of that experience to good use. Look at that, slows the car on the apex. Jake Hill looking for a way past him. Here they come out of Dearleaf, over the line down towards Old Hall, but it's that next right-hander where Nick Hamilton had his moment, and as they come into the corner, yellow flag, so not an overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, clever driving by Shedden. He knows the rear-wheel drive BMW can come off Lodge well with its rear-wheel drive traction, so he just stopped the car on the apex and pulled out the corner on the inside. So there's no chance at all for Hill to get underneath him.
Hamilton's car looks like it's been moved. Stephen Jelly's car has stopped there as well, but I think the race control team are trying to get the race to the end without further interruptions. So fingers crossed that we don't have anybody else in strife to collect a parked car as Jake Hill, Ash Sutton, Dan Rowbottom queue up behind the leader Gordon Shedden. A little bit further back there, look, is Dan Camish, and now Tom Ingram starting to gain back places that he lost early on. Shedden still leading Hill, and now you're going to see a masterclass in how to defend, because don't forget that lead gap of Shedden's has disappeared, but he's not been dislodged, as the next one up the escape road there is Sam Osborne.
Yeah, and good marshalling by the marshals down at the Island Hairpin, because although they had to put the yellow flag out for the stationary car, they got the green out before the Island Hairpin, so it still remains an overtaking place.
Absolutely right. So Jake Hill then now limbering up to try to make his move. Now he looks ever more committed, doesn't he? Down towards Lodge Corner. Is he near enough to make a move? Possibly not. Gordon Shedden still defending us there with about a length margin they come, and Hill, don't forget, is not only having to attack for the lead but also be mindful of where Sutton is for 2nd place. Out of Lodge, up Dearleaf, heading back towards the yellow flag zone. It's still Shedden's Toyota in the lead.
Yeah, and Shedden knows the yellow flag's out, so he hasn't got to worry too much about defending there. It's a stationary yellow now, but that still means no overtaking.
Does indeed, as Rowbottom goes a little bit wide coming out of Old Hall Corner. So Shedden leads the way. Jake Hill in 2nd spot.
Look at the cars squirming about now. The rubber blocks on the wet tyres basically turn to jelly as they overheat and wear away, and the cars just squirm about. The lap times are slow, but it's just a case of managing it. And the tyre wear, front to rear, is a very difficult one to manage. As a little touch from Sutton into the back of Hill.
The fastest lap of the race is done by Dexter Patterson on slicks. So Dexter Patterson is now 14th. He's going to run out of time, but it does show that at the moment a slick tyre is working better than a very used and overheated wet, as Hill slides his way through Hislop's leading quartet in one battle pack. Then it's Proctor ahead of Ingram, ahead of Camish for the next battle. Up Clay Hill, lap 16. Jake Hill, never mind Clay Hill, he's running out of time here, isn't he? And Gordon Shedden is still hanging on in there.
Yeah, good old Flash. Come on, keep it going, 52. We'd love to see you back on the top step of the podium. and he's driving a canny race, canny being Scottish. There's Dexter Patterson on his soft slicks, fastest man on the track.
Next target, Dan Lloyd, as he comes up now underneath the bridge, heading up towards the water tower and then on towards Druids. Here are the race leaders. Jake Hill certainly not giving up, but he's running out of time and running out of options. The car looks quick coming out of Dearly. Over the line they flash together, and it's still the Toyota ahead of the BMW. Jake Hill close, but not able to make a move there. He really needs Gordon to make a tiny, tiny mistake, but this is where all of those years of racecraft in Gordon Shedden's armoury are going to stand him in good stead.
52 wins to that man at the moment. Same as number.
Jake Hill's
Look
off.
at Jake Hill. He's got lost. He's going to be on the grass and lose a load more places.
So that's his bid for the win done. Sutton goes second, Rowbottom goes third, and up to fourth it's going to be Tom Ingram rebuilding his race. Now it's all up to Ash Sutton to see what he can do about Gordon Shedden for the race lead as they come out of the hairpin, but we've only got one more lap to go at the end of this. It looks as though Gordon's now got a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with Ingram's car now the track has dried a bit, is it? It's working really well for him, and in terms of his positioning on the road, look how much he's closed up.
Yeah, he might yet get third as there's a really frustrated Jake Hill coming down towards his lots. So he is now behind Dan Camish. That's going to drop him into 7th position. They come into the right of Nicker Brook, and Jake desperately trying to gain ground back again. But Ingram for the podium is a real possibility. Gordon Shedden leads the way. It's now up to Ash Sutton to see what he can do about catching and maybe even passing as Patterson continues to do fastest lap after fastest lap. Replay of Jake Hill's moment.
Yeah, it starts early on in the corner when he just loses the rear, has to correct and go wide, and that puts him out on the grass where obviously he's lost all traction. And the team, Simon, his dad, very upset at the mistake. But it's a tiny mistake for, unfortunately, quite a big penalty. Final lap.
Yeah, last lap. And look at the gap now that Gordon Shedden's got. I don't think he's going to be under threat from Ash Sutton, but Rowbottom is under threat by Tom Ingram's advances for that third place. So Shedden looks as though he's finally going to bring some joy to the Toyota Gazoo Racing UK team after a really, really tough start to the season. And where better than on a track about, what, a dozen miles from the team's base.
Yeah, that would be a lovely, lovely result. Let's hope they bring it home. But a fine drive by Gordon Shedden, as you say, using all of his experience. And wouldn't Ash Sutton love it if his teammate Rowbottom could stay in front of Ingram and take some points off him?
Would he ever? So over Hilltop they come for the last time. Gordon Shedden makes the run down towards the Hislop chicane. He will in a moment thread his way through that next sequence of corners. So on his very welcome return to the championship, it is Gordon Shedden who leads then as the cars come out of Hislops up through Nicker Brook, the climb up the hill for the last time. And so Gordon Shedden, after his long spell away from the championship, looks as though it is going to be a race win for him. He's got to go back to Croft and 2022 for the last Gordon Shedden victory. And this one, the 53rd, is about 2 corners away. Make that 1 corner. He comes out of Druids. So down towards Lodge Corner, Gordon Shedden starts to celebrate. Ingram lines up to have a go at Rowbottom. That third place duel is not done yet. Rowbottom up the inside, Ingram on the outside. The checkered flag is ready though for Gordon Shedden to score victory at Oulton Park for Toyota. Shedden wins on his return to the championship. Second goes to Ash Sutton. It's Dan Rowbottom third, but only just. He was only a 10th up on Tom Ingram. Senna Proctor 5th, Dan Camish 6th, and a really knocked Jake Hill 7th ahead of James Dornan. Charles Rainford, who dropped a place or 2 at the end, and Sam Osborne to round out the top 10.
Yeah, well, that was an exciting race. A lot of tyre management there as the race started pretty wet and dried out fairly quickly, and the worn wet tyres were degrading both on the front-wheel drive car and the rear-wheel drive car, and different cars had their strengths at different times. But throughout it all, there was no doubt that Gordon Shedden had that race well-measured, a well-measured race, and great to see him back winning again. That will put a smile on his face.
It will indeed. It's been a really tough start to the season, but finally some good news goes the way of the team. And as I say, seeing that Speedworks Motorsport is based effectively just down the road, where better to finally get back to winning ways than here. Gillian Shedden there with Lauren Taylor-Smith, Aaron's wife. So Gordon Shedden takes the win, and he does so by 0.7 of a second. But for so many laps, it looked as though he was going to be under attack, but he just managed to hang on in there with some very, very good driving indeed. And all of those years of experience put to good use. Gordon Shedden wins race 3 at Oulton Park. So the results of round 15 of the championship: a win for Gordon Shedden, with Ash Sutton taking second place and Dan Rowbottom for the podium in third. Tom Ingram fourth, ahead of Senna Proctor and then Dan Camish. That little mistake by Jake Hill dropping him to seventh, ahead of James Dorlin. Charles Rainford ninth, and it's Sam Osborne this time to round out that top 10. In 11th place, Aidan Moffat, while Dexter Patterson sets the fastest lap and wins the Independence. A good result for Unlimited Motorsport. Finn Leslie, 13th in the points. His first and possibly only touring car outing of the season, so well done, ahead of Dan Lloyd and then Darrell De Leon to round out the scorers. But he was a lap down. Adam Morgan was 2 laps down after an early pit stop. Stephen Jelly's nightmare day continued. In the wall was Nick Hamilton, in the pits was Tom Chilton, in the barriers was Mikey Doble. Max Hall was in the gravel. Josh Cook was just in, generally, because of all sorts of problems with the Honda. And we lost Chris Smiley on the opening lap of the race at the escape road down at Hislops. So a really tumultuous day of racing. So what does it do to the championship? Well, the net result of all the action of the day is that Ash Sutton is the championship leader by 11 points from Tom Ingram. Dan Camish is now third. Dan Rowbottom slips to fourth, and it's Jake Hill fifth, ahead of Adam Morgan. Then Tom Chilton, Josh Cook, Chris Smiley, and in 10th is Charles Rainford.
How is all this going to shake out as we move into the second half of the season? I'll be watching from interest from the armchair, but give us your thoughts on what lies ahead.
Well, I think we've got a fascinating battle for this championship, but we've got the whole of the rest of the year to reflect on that and to enjoy it. And talking of reflecting, I would just like to take this opportunity on behalf of the whole sporting world to thank you, Steve, because your 50 years in front of the screen encompasses rowing, it encompasses athletic, it encompasses football, rugby and almost every sport. But we know that your real loves were golf and motorsport, so I think it's fitting that you should end it here at a glorious Oulton Park Touring Cars. And on behalf of everybody, I thank you for everything you've done.
Well, thanks very much. You're not leading into another big bit of ET, are you? No. I better do just that. I think Louise has got more reaction from down in the pit lane.
Steve, hello. On behalf of all your friends and colleagues at ITV Sport, we want to wish you a very happy retirement and thank you for your huge contribution over the years, going all the way back to reporting on the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow.
It was great having you involved in our sport. You looked after us and promoted it so well. And when finally I hung up my oars and stood next to you as pundit for the sport, you asked me all the right questions at the right time, even though that you knew all the answers. Hope you have a great retirement.
You've had the most incredible jobs in UK sports broadcasting. You've earned your retirement. We'll miss you. Have a great time.
Steve Ryder has been a standard setter for all the presenters and talent that have followed in his footsteps over the years. And so for that, I say thank you very much to Steve Ryder.
Often people love doing big grand gestures that the world can see, but it's the quiet things that really show the mark of someone. You told me every single trick, every single secret, everything that I needed to know to make my time in Formula One a success. I've never forgotten it. I never will forget it. And that is a mark of you as a human being.
Just wanted to wish you farewell and wish you all the best for the future. But congratulations. You've been amazing to work with and you've had an incredible career.
From Snetterton to Silverstone to Spa, Steve, you've been the doyen of motorsports presenters. It's been a pleasure reporting for you.
What can I say? Consummate professional, a gentleman, and you will be missed.
Do you know, I'm getting a bit fed up with this production team. I mean, you link into one thing something completely different. Oh, my goodness.
There we go.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
A little something, obviously, for yourself, but also for our beloved Hutch, our script supervisor, who is also finishing this weekend. I have to say, she is the best cake maker in the country. So, but we'll save a slice of this one for you as well, Hutch. You can come see what it's like.
Yeah, I think it goes straight to Tim, actually.
Don't put it in front of me.
You mentioned Hutch there. I'm retiring, but so too is our wonderful PA, Mary Hutchinson. She's been the voice in my ear for about the last 30 years, so it'll be nice to have a bit of peace and quiet from now on. We're all great fans of Hutch, and we wish you all the best, and I think you've got a bit of a fan down in the pit lane as well.
Hello, Hutch. It's Tom. Hope you're all good. I hear a terrible news. The terrible news is you will no longer be joining us because you're retiring, which seems daft. You and your sparkling eyes are going to have to leave the paddock. and I'm not going to have these intimate moments with you ever again, which I'm sad. Frankly, I'm very sad about. So, in your upcoming retirement, keep my number, drop me a text whenever you're feeling lonely, and frankly, have a wonderful, wonderful time.
Isn't that nice? The challenge now is that Hutch has got to count us off the air. So I think, any help that anyone else can provide in that respect would be great. It's a great team, isn't it? Lou, you played your part down the years as well, my goodness.
Well, 20 years we've been working together, Steve, first of all in the Formula One and here in the touring car paddock. I have to say it's been a privilege. I think we would all agree with that. To be working alongside somebody of your experience has been a real privilege. But most of all, it's been a joy as well. I mean, we see flashes of it, when you're broadcasting. But I think what we see behind the scenes is you are just one of the funniest people I know and have us in hysterics on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's because I link into things and something else comes up. It is not my fault, that. It has been great fun, and Paul has been a terrific addition as well.
Thank you. That is very kind of you. I cry a lot at Oulton Park, and I did hold back the tears before, and then me and Louise were talking. We thought we had a little cry outside, didn't we?
Today, haven't we?
Yeah, we're the softest of the lot, aren't we? But Steve, absolute legend. Love you to bits, mate. Thank you for everything you've done for me personally. Thanks.
Well, you've all said some lovely things. Let's say something nice about this championship, because look at them out there. I mean, that atmosphere that these fans generate and Toka generate and the drivers, it's wonderful. You're bound to have a good time.
Yeah, for sure, and that's why we're all here. It's the atmosphere. We can hear everyone cheering now. It's been raining on and off all day. They're all still stood here with everyone, celebrating everyone's driving, and that's why we all love the touring cars. And I'm sure that's why you stayed for as long as you did, because of this whole thing that is happening behind us right now.
Yeah, and you get a cake every now and again as well, which is why you've stayed on.
You'll have to fight Tim for it, but you will get some.
Smells delicious.
It's taking every ounce of Tim's self-control. I can see the look on your face. You're dying to get at it, aren't you?
Tim is the man. I mean, you're the man who's been here throughout. I mean, we came together with the championship in the late 80s. You were a driver, then you were a champion, and now you're a broadcaster. Oh, I think you're a broadcaster anyway as well. But it's been great to work alongside you, mate.
It has, and I've experienced it, as you guys have, as both driver, where we observe your professionalism, and then obviously first-hand to sit and work next to you and see just how much goes into the job. I don't think people really appreciate just how much goes into it, but as Mark Blundell said, you are the consummate professional. But the touring car family, it is a family, whether they're marshals, drivers, fans, people working in the paddock. It's a real community spirit, and we all love it. And everybody looks up and respects you as the absolute patriarch of our sport.
Yeah, and let's have a word about Mary Hutchinson as well, because this is a complicated programme, as we've seen in the last couple of hours, and the stopwatch and the timings are so important.
Absolutely. And Hutch does the job as yourself, and another consummate professional. She forgets sometimes. She has a little switch that she can turn on and off. She sometimes forgets to turn that switch off. So I have her talking in my ears about Tom Ingram's beautiful twinkly eyes when I'm in the middle of a grid interview with him. But hey,
she should be counting. She should be counting. No, she's been great. We've worked in so many different environments together, and Hutch is absolutely the best PA in the business. Gonna miss you a lot, but it's a great second half of the season ahead of us.
It is, and we'll miss you more, Steve. But there's lots more racing to come. I hope you will be watching on and thinking just how much better you could have done the job.
I wouldn't have done it. Thanks very much indeed. I better say a few other thank yous. I'd just like to say thank you very much to all the friends and all the colleagues here at ITV Sport, and all the friends and colleagues also over at the BBC who put up with me for the best part of 45 years or so. There is a great championship going on, and the second half of the season gets underway Sunday, August the 3rd at Croft, and we'll be there, or you'll be there, with ITV Sport. I wish everybody out there in the paddock, in the Touring Car Championship, all the best for the second half of the season. I wish everyone here at ITV Sport all the best. You'll do a great job second half of the season. But for me, well, it's a final goodbye, at least from this chair, the presenter's chair, which it's been a privilege to occupy. Final goodbye. Thanks very much.